I can just hear the littlest things. Are we on? Are we doing it?
It's going.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you, like, edit this out?
Nope. So these things are one directional. So, like, look at me. When I talk like this, it's not as good.
Okay.
But then when I talk like this, it's a lot better.
Oh, so you want me to hold it differently?
They're pretty, like, they're linear. So they'll straight line to your face.
Oh, okay.
But,
I'll hold it like this the entire time.
And then I can turn you up, too. Like, talk now.
Okay. Oh!
Yeah.
Okay.
A little too loud.
Yeah, that's
Sorry for everybody listening. But, yeah. So I can change that, too.
Nice.
Which is pretty fun.
I still feel like I'm kind of loud. Okay. Maybe that's better.
So what's your name?
My name is Cydney.
How do we meet?
That's a great question.
In prison, right?
Definitely. I was arrested for unmentionable things. And what were you arrested for again?
Peeing in public.
I don't think that would land you in prison.
I'm on the sex offender registry, so...
Okay. Fair. Yeah, that probably would put you on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's work going so far?
Oh, good. Yeah. I do hear about people doing that.
Touching kids?
Oh. Well, you weren't... That's not what you were arrested for, were you?
I wasn't caught.
Ew, no. Ew. I don't like that you just said that. That's on the internet now.
Yeah.
No. Can you just speak that into existence that you never did that?
Okay. I didn't touch kids.
Okay.
I have peed in public, though.
Like with people watching you?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So, like, yeah.
Like, I was on a big road trip, and I stopped in this really small town, and it was during a blizzard. And, like, it was such a big snowstorm that the, like, all the stores were closed.
Oh,
and I was just passing through. And so the stores were closed, and I had to pee because I was on a...
Well, that's different.
So I peed in the alley.
Okay, that's different. I feel like that's not...
But I didn't get caught.
I feel like peeing in public is more like... You're, like, in a busy street.
Like peeing on the sidewalk.
And, like, people are all around you.
Yeah, peeing on college.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's different. Okay. Well, that's not actually how we met.
No.
No.
How's work going, though?
Good. Yep, you summed it up, what I do. I take reports about not necessarily just touching, but definitely abuse with children and adults.
Okay.
So,
is it more children or more adults?
More children, but we take both.
Okay.
So, yep.
You were just getting back from training. Are they still training you, or you
No,
still get a...
I'm done training.
Okay.
So I'm working. Nice. I'm pretty sure after this week, the pay is, like, I get paid from Thursday to the next Wednesday. That's just how the pay thing goes. I think I worked, like, 52 hours this week.
Nice.
Which is, like, doesn't sound that much, but I'm a temp, so I'm not technically supposed to get, like, below 40 hours. And I definitely exceeded that. But they better pay me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm going to be upset. So, yep.
Nice.
What are you doing for
I'm
work?
in senior care right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you still...
Did we talk? Yeah.
I think last time we talked, you were still doing that. That's nice.
Yeah. So, 40 hours a week. That's been good.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
But I might apply for a job back at Harvest Farm. I volunteered this morning there, and I heard a couple people left, and there's a couple positions available.
That would be a good idea.
I don't know if I'm qualified, but I'm still going to put a resume in, and they know me.
Might as well.
So,
nice.
Kind of looking forward to that, because I would like to get back into that field.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Still planning on getting married?
Yes.
I didn't know how else to transition into that.
Must we talk about this on the podcast?
Do you not want to talk about it?
Well, if you're not going to cut it out, I
I'm
feel
not
like we're just
gonna.
Exactly.
So if you don't want to bring it up, that's fine. I was just curious to catch up. Is all. If you don't want it public, that's understandable.
Well, I just feel like this is more of a catching up kind of thing.
Okay.
That we could do.
Like an off-record thing?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
You're good. I'm just tired.
Yeah, I bet.
But you had some topics you wanted to bring.
Yes.
Do you want to just start with those?
Sure. I would like to talk about...
There were 3, right?
3 topics, yes. So I come from a Christian perspective, background, whatever you may want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 3 often controversial, if you may, topics. One is that there's this concept. What?
I was just seeing how loud you were.
Oh, am I pretty loud?
I don't know.
I feel like I'm talking pretty. I feel like I'm talking.
Like in the real world, just so nobody
I
gets
think
mad
I'm
at
talking
us.
pretty normally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Proceed.
Okay, just start talking.
Huh?
Start talking like normal. Yeah, we're just talking.
Okay.
It just sounds like we're having a casual conversation.
It's just really loud in the headphones, I guess. It's nice.
Yes.
I like the headphones part.
Yeah.
To it.
The headphones is nice. Yes, the first topic is this belief that men, more say husbands, are supposed to lead
Mm-hmm.
in the household, and women are supposed to submit. So, can you just talk about your perspective, as it may not align exactly with the Christianity perspective?
Yeah. This is something. There's so many places I could start. Like in general, I've been lately having an interest in, I guess, just relationships in general. Because, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to figure out myself on how I stand with relationships and where exactly I want to be when I get married, and
Fair.
how to like actually structure a good relationship with another
Now that you know how
person.
to like propose and stuff.
Yeah, after we went over that last time. I don't remember, honestly.
He didn't understand
didn't
certain
understand. I didn't
concepts of being engaged
Yeah.
and proposal and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But anyways, yes, keep going.
But I guess just more like how to act and everything like that, and like roles. Because
Okay.
I think like I agree that there's, I guess, a division of responsibilities, you know? And this is something I'm still trying to figure out. I was actually listening to an interesting podcast this morning with 2 dudes that I've been listening to a lot of.
Okay.
That they're more on like a far side of the spectrum of just like, I guess, like women should submit all the time, and it's like very like they're very like masculine oriented, I guess. You could say like they're very like dudes need to watch their backs, like women are almost out to get them, like of that kind of.
That's a little extreme.
Yeah, there are definitely 10 more on that extreme spectrum, and I like to listen to them just to get that perspective. But this morning I was listening to them in like on somebody else's podcast, and of people that like actually like challenged their ideas very well. So just, I guess what I'm saying, it was interesting to see some of the stuff I was hearing consistently from them that seemed sound, have some holes poked through it from guys that don't necessarily think that you need to like keep a girl on her toes at all times to like make sure attraction's there and stuff like that. Like there's these certain rules that these 2 guys had that I don't know, these other guys, like 2 out of 3 of them were married and like don't see it as that. They see it of more of like the reciprocal nature and stuff like that. So I guess just to start in general, this has been on my mind. And I'm still, I guess, trying to figure out exactly what will work for me, but then also like what in general is the best course for most people, you know, because everybody's a little bit different, but you can still take some averages out that most people will want, you know. So I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay. So have you heard of that concept before?
Will you say the concept?
The husband leads in the household. He's the head of the household.
Yeah.
And then women are called to submit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard it. Yeah.
Okay. So what in your eyes, like what does that necessarily mean? Or like how do you think that should look?
I think like from a man's point of view, one way that could look like is the final decision is usually done by the man, but like I think if you're a good leader, you'll take everything into account. So while like the final decision might be made by you, you still need to take a good manifesto of everybody involved. And that's a majority of the time is definitely going to involve your significant other or your wife.
Should at least.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
And if you're properly leading, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess if you had to set this up, then that would be if things are properly at play, while maybe the wife might not have a final say, she still has like an influence and a voice, I guess. Maybe not as loud, but still present, I guess, is how I would imagine it.
Okay. Is that how you believe it should be?
Again, I'm still trying to figure this out. I think for most people, I think that would work. I think and I'm still working on it. So this could change in 2 years after I've had different experiences and listened to some different ideas from people that have experienced more than me. But I think right now, at least in general, it makes sense that for most situations, it's best for like to have a head of household be the man, and then and I don't know if I would personally would use like a submission role for the wife or anything like that, but I guess you just kind of go like and I don't even like necessarily saying final say goes to the husband, because that seems like almost authoritarian in a certain sense, but I think like these two dudes, and I've been trying to like really dip a toe into this, so different from different people, but like one thing they'll talk about is like, and I'm just more speaking their perspective. I'm trying to get a good culmination of all of these ideas. But one thing they'll say is like, one like question they'll ask is like, if you're on a plane, and this might be out there, but like, and the plane was going into like some sort of windstorm or hurricane or something like that, and you wanted somebody steady on the handles to hopefully get you through that, right? If the only thing you knew about which person you could choose was whether it was going to be a male or female, which person would you choose? And like usually people might say a male because they might handle it better, is what a lot of people would say. And I think that kind of speaks on it, just like with decision making capabilities. And that's the analogy, and is doesn't have like a lot of structure. It's just kind of metaphorical. But then if you think about it, like most of the best like NASCAR drivers are men, and that's not necessarily, and I haven't done a lot of thinking in this, and I'd like to look into it a little bit more, but like, and that's a nice sport to look at because it's not physical. Like it's easy to say that in general more men are more physically capable than the majority of women.
Biologically, yes, that's how it is.
Yeah. But then, like, if you look at something like NASCAR driving, strength isn't really the main role. It's more like dexterity and quick time to think and stuff like that on the steering wheel. And you see the majority of men still, and you're talking about like the 0.1% of people that can drive a car really well, you know? So it's like the upper echelon of men, but they still beat out most of the women, you know? So like when you look at this play out in like sports that don't require like a physical barrier, you still see more men working at the upper level than more women. Okay. So like stuff like that.
That makes sense.
That they explained to me made like intuitive sense of like just in general how we're built is a little bit different, you know?
Oh yeah. No, completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, men and women are not built the exact same.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So I heard that and I was like, okay, that gives a little bit of credibility to like why we'd give the reins more to the man, I guess. Okay. You know? And not from like a misogynist point of view of like men are better, but just like maybe we just have a slightly better tendency of like quicker decision making capabilities and stuff like that. You know? And again, these are just things I'm still trying to fill out and think about, but I heard those and it like made sense, you know, on an intuitive level and almost biological level.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I guess I haven't really thought about that aspect necessarily. Okay. Nice. Okay, well,
what do you think? How do you think it should be structured?
I I don't know if there's necessarily like a certain like step by step like thing of how it's supposed to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm referring to like what it says in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of where that's where the concept comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try and pull this up because there's a certain verse that says it. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, so in the perspective of Christianity, you know, God made Adam, and then he said that it was not good for man to be alone, so then he created Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where that concept came from, is that the Lord, you know, I believe that it's because of sin that the man is supposed to rule over the wife,
Mm-hmm.
and that women are supposed to be under the authority of men. So I mean, that is, to my knowledge, the way that the Lord, you know, structured it to be.
Okay.
And then in, what is it? Yeah, Ephesians 5:22 says, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so wives are to submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of water by the word." So, that is a big verse that people, I feel like, just reference to.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree. I mean, because if that's the way the Lord created it to be,
Mm-hmm.
then I will, like,
Yeah.
follow that. But I do think that over time, culture has become very, like, patriarchy. It's just, like,
Mm-hmm.
men most of the time rule over most things. And I think I've seen this many times in the church, that this whole concept of, you know, the man, or, see, I keep saying the man, it's the husband. The husband should lead and the wife should submit. And submission has been a very interesting concept, I feel like, for many women over time with this specific situation. Because, I mean, telling a woman to submit, I mean, if you went up to a random stranger on the street nowadays and just said, like, what do you think about submitting to a man? Like, obviously they'd have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just because it's been shaped with culture to be this thing of submission is doing exactly what someone else tells you to do, no matter what, no matter the circumstances. And I mean, I don't think that that's, like, fair or equal, or, like, that just sounds like slavery, in my opinion.
To, like, fully submit yourself down.
Right. But, like, marriage is supposed to represent, the husband is supposed to be Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman, the wife, is supposed to be the church. And so, like, many people are very fast to be like, well, wives should submit, the women should submit, but we're forgetting about the part where Jesus came to lay down his life. He made the biggest sacrifice, and he did everything to love the church the way he did.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a very important aspect, because when these conversations come up, they're just like, well, why aren't you submitting? Because you're the wife. And it's like, well, are you loving her the correct way? Are you, like, laying down your life? Are you sacrificing like you should?
Yeah.
Because that's what is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
The husband should lead in a certain way that is so, like, looking like Jesus, that the wife should want to submit. It's not out of, like, obligation or, like, force. It should be because, like, oh, I want to follow you just like the church follows Jesus, all because of what he did. And if he did anything different or didn't do what he did, the church would not follow him the way they do.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
yeah, I don't know. I just think that's a missed part in it. Yes, wives are supposed to submit, but it's also the husbands are called to something, someone say even far greater than the wives.
Yeah.
In many ways. So
yeah.
But I don't know. I just know that this concept has been difficult because there's been many times I feel like that the whole submission thing is supposed to be used for different things in marriages, like for instance, like abuse. Because men are going to use this like power tactic of like, oh, I'm the leader, I'm the head of the household, and you're the wife, so you need to submit and you need to do everything I ask you to do. And then like in many Christian relationships, they'll go to, not all churches, but I'm just saying in some cases, the couple will go to, I don't know, the head of the church, of their church, and they'll be like, this is what our problems are. And of course the husband's not going to be like, I'm totally abusing her and all this stuff. He's just going to be like, the wife's not doing this or this, but like she's not submitting properly.
Yeah.
And it's on the wife because she's not submitting.
Yeah.
But it's
so
abuse.
You're basically saying in order for proper submission to take place, proper authority needs to be taken up by the head of the household first. First
before submission. Because why would you submit to someone who like you can't trust, or who has not shown you that they're worthy of like following?
An unwise king.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't make sense. But but lots of situations do end up like that, and then they're just in an abusive relationship. But it's justified by, well, she just needs to submit, you know. And I think that sucks, in my opinion. That really is sad. Because like if you're in that relationship, you're like, I'm trying to do all I can. Like, I'm trying to do what the Lord is asking me to do. I'm trying to submit to my husband. Yeah. But it's like all wrong. It's all messed up. Yeah. And I mean, in my last relationship, in which I will not share many details.
That's fine.
I mean, I wasn't even engaged or married to the guy, and he told me that when we got married, if I didn't let him finish every time, that we would have to go to counseling because I would not be submitting as a wife because he wants that, and I did not. Yeah. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not your slave, and just because you're the head of the household does not mean you get to just tell me what to do and boss me around. So that's not love. You can do that with someone you hire or something you pay, but it's not going to be like your wife. Yeah. I'm not with that person anymore, thank God. But that's just a very wild example in my eyes.
Yeah. Do you feel like because you're like, as a woman of God and given this decree, I don't know if decree is the right word, but you're given this almost script that you should submit, and you probably would with the right authority figure, the right man of your household, right? Yes. And so do you feel like, because it's easy for us as humans sometimes to abuse power, right? Yes. And so do you feel like it kind of takes a little bit of the power out of a woman's hands, because if her script is to submit, then it's up, I guess, to her to choose like a good leader, right? But then other than that, that's about all the power she has, when a man's power seems to be a lot more great and more willing. Does that make sense? Like, yes. It robs a lot of agency, right?
I think that's the main reason why so many women have problems with submission. With men? Because well, with men too, but with the concept of submission, because they just feel like they have to do everything the man. It's all up to the man.
Makes you very vulnerable too,
yes.
Right?
And so they have no power. Yeah. And that's why, although I do believe that husbands should lead and wives should submit, it's supposed to look a certain way that is represented by Jesus in the church. But too often and for too long, we have like just made it our own concept of what it should be. And then churches will preach like, oh, husbands are supposed to lead like this, blah, 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 blah. And like, it's not reflected with how Jesus lived his life. And it does not say in not many specifics of like how you're supposed to do your finances or whatever with the husband leading. It doesn't get into the nitty gritty of like what that is exactly supposed to look like. So then we're just taking it into our own interpretation, which it can be dangerous if you take certain aspects or any of the Bible from your own interpretation.
Because it can be easily manipulated.
Yes,
for your own wielding.
Yes.
And then when it's already like automatically granted to 50% of the population.
Yes.
Gets the power. Almost whether they deserve it or not. Right?
Yes.
Because actually the guy I was talking to earlier, we're kind of talking about this. How like, it's not exactly similar, but like you have the start of your life, and then we know that you're kind of undereducated, undercompetent, under a lot of things because you just got into the world. You don't have a lot of experience or skills developed or anything like that, right?
Yes.
And then we know that for sure because there's like a slight stereotype on kids and stuff like that, that they don't know much, which is fair to a certain extent. And then we know at the end piece, there's eventually for everybody weakness and then death.
Yes.
And so then we have this middle part.
Yes.
And
the middle part.
And it's like, I think everybody wants to find power is what we're kind of getting at. But what I was trying to get to him was because you start in this place of having nothing and you should become the man. And then when you come into that place of power and experience and like I had a metaphor of like you finally get the sword. Then in your previous years as a kid and teenager and young adult, you got strong enough in not just a physical sense, but in every aspect that you could to wield the sword properly. Because if you got into that position of power and authority as a either weak-minded or weak-bodied individual, you could easily just drop the sword on somebody you love, whether you intended to slice or unintendedly dropped it on somebody. It's still a power to wield.
That makes
is
sense.
What we're kind of talking about. And so in these years that we have now, it's time to, at least I can speak from my own perspective of being a guy or a man, of it's time now to be as competent as you can and as good as you can, I guess, and get ready for hopefully when all those different things I invested into start to pay out and pay dividends, that there comes power with that. And then I actually have the competence and ability to wield the power correctly. That's something we were talking about.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of marriage, I definitely think that's something you have to prepare for.
Yeah.
You don't just you shouldn't, in my opinion, just walk into marriage and just be like, all right, well, now I got all of this power. I think it takes like discipline to learn like just how to be, for one, in a relationship, and to be like this role
authority
in a marriage.
What do you think? I think maybe it's easy for us to like picture like how to be competent. You just kind of work in a skill and self-improve yourself and have a little bit of humility along the way and everything like that. We can picture almost like the hero's journey to be the sword wielder, almost, whatever you want to call it. What do you think? And it's probably a good question for somebody like you, because I'm not a woman, but like,
no, you're not.
What does that look like for like a woman if like eventually your path is to be in a place of not necessarily holding the sword, but I guess of supporting the man with the sword? What does that look like for you?
Like how to get there? Or how like prepare, or just in general? Like,
I guess whatever you got, like how to prepare, what in general it looks like. Like for me, I'm trying to do everything I can in my life to be the best I can be.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, take humility with that, like I said, and everything,
Right.
so I can be physically strong, but then also mentally strong and mentally competent, and at least have some sort of skill set I can use to take into the world and provide some value to people, to then make money and support myself and my family with that.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel for most guys it is. And that's hopefully the trend a lot of guys have to get into that authority role, right? But then it's slightly different for women, right? So I guess I'm just kind of curious. Like, I understand the road and path I want to, but also am called to and need to walk. But it's going to be slightly different for somebody of the opposite sex, right? So I guess I'm just trying to get some perspective on that, of what that looks like, because you're somebody, I guess, in that position, and you're planning on getting married as well, so you're almost like getting close to being in this position for real, you know?
Right.
So I don't know if you've put much thought to that, or like, because I know at one point you wanted to be like a preacher, right? Like, you almost wanted that authority role.
Yes. That will be the next topic that we'll talk about. Yes. I will speak for only the time that I have thought about this, because honestly, when I was single, like in high school, I didn't think much about this because, well, I was in high school. So
yeah. So how long have you been thinking about it now? Has it been on your mind, do you think?
Probably since I got to college, because I was dating my high school boyfriend.
Okay.
And then we broke up because, well, I was just like, I don't know. I just like needed to consider a lot of things in my life, and I was like, I don't think that like you're gonna be in my future.
Yeah.
So
about
after that,
4 or 5 years? Less?
No, it
3?
was like 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. So
3?
3. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was single for a period of time. Then I dated that guy, and that really made me.
I just had this thought. Do you think that actually? Well, I was going to ask, do you think that it would have been more helpful to you to be exposed to like this idea and think about it earlier on, or do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, I think so.
It would have been more helpful if you heard it sooner?
Yes, at least challenged in it.
Okay. Challenged in what?
Challenged in thinking about like what that should look like.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
'Cause like, as I was gonna say, I feel like in the past few years, I mean, dating people definitely helps you think about like, okay, so how is this gonna look if we continue? And with my boyfriend that I have right now, that has really challenged the both of us to look at like, okay, well, what is this gonna look like in a few months when we do get married? And I think something that has helped me a lot is like finding other women who are either dating or also married, and just seeing their view on submission and what that looks like, and just ultimately like seeing how the relationship is, because, you know, like if their idea of submission is like, well, slavery, and it's quite obvious that like the husband or the boyfriend is like abusive, then I'm like, okay, well, that's not correct.
Yeah.
Because the Lord wouldn't want like women to just sit in this abusive relationship just for submission's sake. Also, these girls behind you are looking at me. They keep staring at me. But
so
yeah.
I guess I try to like boil things down a lot, which just might be too much, but like I think we can identify that, like, because I think spectrums are very helpful, you know? So if we take that spectrum of what a good authority figure looks like, I think on one side you have almost like maybe you have somebody with like a lot of power, somebody that is using their authority. I'm trying to picture this. That somebody has almost taken authority away and is using it against people for their own selfish needs, maybe on one side. And I could probably define that better if I thought about it more. And then maybe on the other side of the spectrum, and this is maybe more of a masculine thing, you have somebody that is maybe underdeveloped and had the chance to pursue certain paths that would have made them excellent, but then chose not to and almost got bitter and resentful and almost depressed from that.
Okay.
And maybe to get back to the other side, that was somebody that maybe went out and pursued and conquered, but almost did that from a sense of like trying to hurt others and not trying to lead others.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe does that dichotomy kind of make sense, do you think? Can you add to that at all?
Are you talking just in general, or are you talking about like specifically like a husband who missed or purposely missed his opportunities, or someone who's just trying to have power?
Maybe it's something like, on one end, you have somebody that had the chance to take an opportunity and didn't.
Okay.
And you don't want a man in that state.
Okay.
And then on the other side, you have somebody that maybe took some sort of opportunities, but the power they did get, they're using it to harm people and not lead people.
Okay.
And then on this side, they took no opportunity, so they have no authority. And then on the other side, they did take the opportunities, but they're using the authority for malevolence. And so then what we would want is somebody in the center in a well balance of the spectrum where they did take the opportunities and they did figure out the authority to the correct level where it's not from the position of a tyrant, but it's from the position of somebody that wants to lead.
Yes.
Maybe that's a good way to define it.
Okay.
And so almost I think the spectrum is kind of helpful to like think about how to be a good leader, how to be a good man in your household. Yes. Almost. Okay. You need to be a man that takes opportunities that you need to take in order to get better. But then when you take, it's almost not even, it's opportunities or also maybe responsibility is a better word, where you're a man that takes responsibility and doesn't shy away from it. But then once responsibility is given to somebody, authority is then given as well. Once we give the responsibility of president to somebody, there's an authority there with that as well.
Yes.
And so then once you have that authority is to not abuse it, maybe. And at that far end of the spectrum, once you have that responsibility, just don't abuse your authority and use it in a leadership fashion. And so you find somebody that falls in between those two things, somebody that takes responsibility and then also at the same time somebody that uses their authority to lead. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so the start was a ramble, but I think I kind of came up with a good spectrum almost there. So I'm kind of curious if you have input on like what a good almost submissive role is, because I think one thing you're connecting to well, that is it tipping to an unbalanced position, is it being a slave.
Yes.
That is an out of balance submissive role. And so I'm kind of curious what the other side of that is, because we want to be in the middle.
I would say it's the woman trying to take all of the authority that belongs to the man. But that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, she doesn't let the man make any choices or anything. I think it's just like, I mean, okay, so
almost, sorry, but that state that I was kind of describing earlier where maybe your voice has sound to it but isn't the loudest.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because if you have no voice, you're the slave, is what I'm getting at. And if you have too loud of a voice, then you become that authority. Is what I'm getting at.
I don't know if it's necessarily like the man has the loudest voice and the woman has a quieter voice.
Okay.
I believe that they both like.
And I mean like
I believe they both equally have the same voice.
Okay.
I believe that like, yes, I know I'm saying like husband should lead, wife should submit, but I still believe that it should be equal.
Okay.
Just because a woman's submitting, I don't believe that like her voice is quieter.
Do you think that like the man gets the final say? Like, is that
no
in this? Okay.
I
what do
don't
you think when
that.
it comes to like decision making and stuff like that? How does that work?
I mean, there's multiple times where the man's not going to be able to have the final say, I feel like. Not in every circumstance of every single moment in life. The man is going to have that opportunity.
Do you think for the majority, though, of decisions he should be present and almost take the lead?
In big decisions, I believe both people should be involved. But in reference to like head of the household, I think that I gotta sneeze. Wait.
You're good.
Okay, never mind. Well, it'll come back. I'm trying to think. I think that if that was the way it was set up in a marriage, I believe that it should be because the wife trusts the husband so much so that she gives him her input, and she trusts him enough to have sound judgment and to also let her know what he's thinking, and for him to ultimately make a decision if that's what it were to be.
Yeah.
But I don't believe like in every single paper of every single decision it has to be the man's name on there, you know.
That would be a more totalitarian role then.
Yeah.
We would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So I believe there is like equality, not equality in that still.
Equality. Okay.
Equality. Yes.
Equality?
Equality.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They it's just like different roles.
Isn't that a little different than what you just said? Because didn't you, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you just say that almost the woman will tell the man most of the time what's on her mind and what her decision would be, and then the man then decides while taking that into account?
I did say that, but I said if that's how the marriage is set up.
Oh, okay.
If that's
how the two people decide on it?
Yes.
Okay. So then it's almost just at a certain point personal preference then? At that point?
Well, see, that's kind of the part of like you just
like this is has some ambiguity to it.
Yes, which is why I said like, you know, the Bible doesn't state big decisions are just up to the man.
Yeah, like so how to do your taxes and everything like that.
So that's why I was saying like there's some blank space. Like what does it mean for the man to lead?
Which do you do you think is helpful, because as individuals we're all sort of peculiar, and when we connect with somebody else we all have our different tendencies, like you're kind of saying. So if like somebody wanted to set up their relationship where every single decision that's made the woman will tell the man, and provided he's an upstanding man he takes that into account but then makes the final decision, so it kind of allows some leeway for two people that want to live their life like that, but then also gives leeway to people that a little bit differ.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think if that's what a husband and wife chose to do, from my perspective, so I can't say for couples who are not Christians, but from my perspective, I just mean like the best example of a husband leading and a wife submitting is just looking at Jesus in the church. So if like certain things you'd be like, okay, is that right for my husband to do? You should just be like, well, is this like, you know, is this how Jesus loved the church? Yeah. And even for non-Christian couples or whatever it may be, I do believe that like, I mean, Jesus is the greatest example of love. So even if you're not Christian, or even if, I don't know, whatever it may be, I do believe that if you want any way or any person to like reflect on about what it means to love another person selflessly and sacrificially, it would be Jesus. Yeah.
So is there no story, like I get the motif of the man imitating Jesus and the woman imitating the church. I understand that, but is there no story that depicts a man and woman in a proper marriage? Like, is there anything like that?
I mean, there's lots of examples of married couples in the Bible, and there's different instances. Yeah. Is
there like an archetypal story that you can just read and be like, okay, I should follow as Jane does in this marriage because I'm the woman, and I should, and my man should imitate Jesus, but then at the same time, this is how Dave in the Bible, married to Jane, went about certain decisions. Is there anything like that?
I think there are a lot. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, take Adam and Eve, for instance.
Okay.
I mean, they're married.
Yeah.
And, you know, the story of, you know, Eve takes a bite out of that big old juicy apple. And, you know, all of a sudden the world is all blaming her. But, and so I think that a lot is why a lot of this stems from, like, oh, women are the downfall of the world, because Eve was the downfall.
Do you think that's overplayed?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I think, well, not overplayed. I just do think that it's this concept that people believe, and I think it's ridiculous in my opinion. Because Adam was directly told by God in the garden before Eve was created to not go to, here, I'll put up, because this is actually very interesting.
I've heard, and this could be wrong, but I've heard that, as you're pulling this up,
yes,
that certain translations more translate that God created more of a like hermaphroditic figure, whereas almost, I think hermaphroditic is sexless, so it had male and female properties, and then that from that figure, men and women split, is one in, I don't know if it was an interpretation or one different translation that somebody had. I was curious if you knew about that or had any
about
idea
Adam
on
and
that.
Eve?
Yeah. Because you gave it as like man's created and then from man, woman. But just from like other people I've listened to, I thought I heard somewhere that in some either interpretations or translations, it was almost this, it's Adam, but it's almost more in a hermaphroditic form where it's male and female. And then from that then is split into Adam and Eve. So it's more of like an equal conception from this first form, I guess. Does that, if that makes sense?
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, interpretations don't mean anything to me.
Have you heard that idea at all?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, not really, but I could see how that is.
How do you feel? How would you feel if that was like a, like, and I don't remember the origin, but like if we took that as like a, like original translation from it, and actually it was supposed to mean this figure was created, and then from that at the same time it was man and woman, not woman from man. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Like there's one figure that was not any gender,
almost
and
asexual,
man
yeah,
and women came from that one person.
Yeah, and the division created the sexes is kind of the idea behind that. And it's more of like a, I guess equal approach, because it's not
rather
like,
than the woman coming from the
man.
man.
It's not man and then woman, it's them splitting at the same time. So it's more of an equal idea, I guess.
Okay.
And I know in like woman is made from Adam's rib,
yes,
I believe, and stuff like that. So I guess we're kind of throwing that out at this point,
right,
which I understand, but like just for the sake of, I don't know, the thought, what do you think of that idea?
I think that if that's how it actually happened.
Yeah, this is a hypothetical.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
To me, I like it just because it sounds more equal. Like, as you were saying, there's this almost, a lot of almost shame cast on women because of how, if you will, Eve acted in the start of the Bible. So there's a lot of shame thrown there. So I like it in the sense that like it was more of an equal start for males and females, and I guess more of a sense of equality in an idea.
Okay.
So I like it if it's true or if it has any validity to it. But I don't know if you have any thoughts. I might be cutting you off, but
you are, but it's okay. That is a concept that I don't think I have an answer for quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, right? Do you think it's interesting?
just don't believe that's how it is.
Yeah. I'm just it's more of just a thought experiment at this point. And you know more. I guess why I'm asking you this too is you know more about the Bible than I do. So you would know more about how that would, I guess, reflect on other stories or reflect on the initial story. A lot of things.
Maybe not a lot, but I mean, it actually might, yeah. Just because, well, yes, in terms of like the marriages or whatever in the Bible, you know, when Jesus comes, he's like, this is the prime example. Like, I am the prime example of me representing the groom, loving the bride, and the church. And so if it's like, if there's no difference in roles, because I do believe that they're both equal in the marriage, but they just have different roles.
Yeah.
So if it's like, if that's different, then I don't know what that would look like when Jesus would come, because the roles might be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Wouldn't it getting started out on a more of an equal foot then lead to a better idea of being more equal in the marriage? You know, doesn't it kind of take some of that out of it?
Like, can you explain that again?
Like, because if we go on this idea that there was one singular figure of almost has like no description, but then when it splits, it's man and woman, Adam and Eve, and the splitting is at one singular time, therefore having, I guess, like more of equality coming out of what God created, you know?
Okay. I think
if I'm getting too far.
I think you're thinking way too hard on this hypothetical.
Okay.
Maybe
well,
that's
I heard it somewhere, so I know
you.
It wasn't just like my idea.
No, I
This
know.
definitely wasn't mine.
No,
but I thought it was interesting because I think this person was trying to say it was like from a different translation or something. I don't think it was an interpretation. I thought they specifically said that it was like of a different version of the Bible or something like that, where it said it was more of a hermaphroditic figure that emerged first, which would be just encompassing men and women. And
then what about the original person then?
What about him?
Yeah, like
that original person split into Adam and Eve, and that's where we get males and females.
Oh, I get it now more.
Okay.
I thought you just meant like it gave birth to like a man and a woman, and it was still alive.
No. There was like a splitting effect almost.
Well, I don't know. I can only speak of what I know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
You were gonna read something though, right?
Yeah, because we were talking about how Eve gets all the shame of everything, and I was just going to make note that, I mean, this is an example of a husband leading and a wife submitting.
In a proper way?
No.
Oh.
No, not in a proper way.
Okay.
But it's not, like, you probably wouldn't understand unless you read the context and, like, deeper notes.
Okay.
But when God made Adam, he plopped him in the garden, and then he told him that you're free to eat from any tree of the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the day you eat from it, you will certainly die. And so then, after that, he created Eve from his rib and blah, blah, blah. And now, Eve is at the tree and whatever, and this serpent, it's, yes, a metaphorical serpent. I don't believe it was like an actual snake. But then the serpent comes, and he starts tempting her with these things. Like, did God really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden? And then the woman says, we may eat the fruit from the trees in the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God said you must not eat it or touch it, or you will die. So if you notice that Eve was not there. She was not told directly by God. So for her to know this, it would have been Adam as her husband
take that leadership.
To take the leadership to tell her. And if you notice, she says the tree in the middle of the garden, which is kind of correct, but it's actually the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which Adam knows. So that's just proof that he did not relay this message properly to his wife. And then she also says, you must not eat it or touch it or you will die. And that's not what God said. He never said touch it. And then after the serpent tempts her enough to grab the apple and eat it, she grabs the apple, so she touches it. And even in that moment, she does not die. So that all, and then when they sin and everything, then they both, and then Eve calls her husband over and says, hey, take a bite out of this. He's still the head of the household. He still knows exactly, what. Eve came from this perspective of just like not really knowing, not being told exactly
almost an incomplete idea.
Yes, exactly, because of her husband.
Yeah.
And then Adam knew fully well because the Lord himself told him what to do. And he still came over and he still ate. So if anything, it's actually Adam's fault. Not like it has to be someone's fault, but like it's not like the woman doomed the entire world because of that. Yeah. So
I see what you're saying, where we almost have this like overcorrection of the idea that it was 100% the woman's fault.
Yes.
When really it was a partnership in this failure.
Yes.
And I think like later on, he doesn't even own up to it, right?
No.
He's like,
yep.
It was that woman. That woman you sent down here. It was her.
Yep. God asked them, and he's like, "Well, it was the woman."
Which sounds like a sitcom
that
almost.
You gave me. So not only does he blame Eve, he also blames God. Yeah. Because he's like, "You're the one who gave me her.
Yeah. Why'd you give me this woman?"
Like you're the kind of the reason why I made a mistake. Yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy. I didn't learn that until just a few weeks ago because I've been studying this whole complementarianism thing, which is one of the topics that I want to talk about. But yeah, just this whole concept of the woman dooming the world, which
that's half the story.
Yes, exactly. So
as a lot of things we have now, we're only getting half the story with a lot of these things, and it's an incomplete view of the world. Yo,
what?
We're only getting half the story right now, and it gives us an incomplete view of the world. And that is due to a failure of authority. Yes. But you see this play out in our society right now, where a lot of different institutions that we have given authority to have, in my personal, depending on context, but in general, some of these institutions have kind of abused their authority and painted half pictures for the general public, leaving us uninformed as Eve was.
Yes.
That's why I said because it like translates into what we're experiencing right now.
Yes.
Where our authority figures aren't acting as Jesus, and therefore leaving a uninformed church. Yeah.
So it's like the church is just following blindly.
Yeah. Well, I just get
wrongly.
Yeah. And I just get goosebumps because it's like connecting it back to reality, like
Goosies.
I got like 4 or 5 different bouts when I was talking to my friend this morning, or earlier today. But because we were talking about a couple weeks ago the Tower of Babel and how I was like trying to connect that to times right now and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's fun. It's definitely fun, but it's also cool seeing these connections to the text.
Yes, you can relate the Bible to many situations of real life. Yes.
What's the antidote to that? I guess like a proper authority figure that takes up responsibility, like Jesus, who took up responsibility and bared the cross, but at the same time did not abuse the responsibility and leadership that he had, and cultivated a well-informed church, right?
Yes.
So
okay, here, let me explain it this way.
Okay.
As Christians, we're all called to live a life like Jesus. So that's what we're supposed to do.
Oh, sorry. No, I figured it out.
Okay.
When we're talking, sorry, I'm having all these epiphanies in the middle of this.
That's okay.
We have a really nice detailed look at what Jesus is, but also how the man should be, where
Yes.
this idea of responsibility in a balance between, I guess, taking up responsibility and then also wielding authority properly.
Yes.
I didn't think it was accurate enough when you said that on one side a woman can tilt to slavery or can tilt to not listening to the man. I felt like that was when you said that it was a faulty definition, but I didn't have anything until I just had one now and then I forgot. Because I was explaining everything leading up to that.
You should have just said it.
Shit. Dude.
I'm sorry.
This would have been... No, I took too long explaining everything.
Yeah, you did.
Something you said... Well, I was trying to think, like, what's a proper church?
Well,
and a proper church is somebody... Oh, that... Okay, yeah. I'm back to it.
Okay.
Where on one side it's total enslavement, almost. The church totally, or the woman totally enslaves herself or their self to the authority or to Jesus.
Yes.
Is maybe too much. And then on the other side, it's that's almost maybe too much listening, and almost you're giving everything over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which there's maybe too much of that at times. And then on the other side, you're giving nothing over, so then the church
like
is not listening to Jesus.
Rebellion, yes.
Yeah. Do you think that's accurate? Where
okay, so I think on this side of the spectrum where they have no authority at all, they're not doing anything, they are obeying the husband at all times for every single thing. I don't think that's like their fault.
And when you say there, you're meaning the woman?
I don't think that's the woman's fault.
Okay.
Like I see how it's the man.
But isn't it the church's job to obey everything that Jesus says?
Right, but it's not. That is in an abusive relationship. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That the woman does every single thing.
But if maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but if the man is to imitate Christ.
Yes.
And the woman is to imitate the church.
Right.
When isn't the church supposed to listen to Christ all the time and take his lead?
Yes.
And therefore the woman must listen to the man all the time and take his lead. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
But if the man isn't leading properly and he's abusing
the woman
his
needs
wife,
to call him out on that and not be a slave.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's not her fault.
Okay. So
if she's being manipulated by the
okay.
husband
to
be like, you're not doing this because you're supposed to submit, but it's all manipulation and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's not her fault because she's just trying to do the best she can by submitting to her husband.
Okay.
But it's his fault because he's being abusive, not just to his power, but to her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I guess in that middle of the spectrum, you need to be a woman that listens to the proper authority and can identify, and we almost have to like target when men aren't being the proper authority.
Yes.
So that's the job of women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's the representation, but men are not going to be Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
See, but if this was back then when Jesus was alive and well on this earth, we would definitely, some of us would follow every single step, every word he would say. But because this is a representation, like,
I'm so excited right now. I'm having so many goosebumps. Like
wow.
all these ideas are like, I'm loving this talk.
Wow. Good.
Like I love this idea that we just laid out, because these are things I've been thinking about a lot, and you helped like color in a lot of things.
Wow. I'm glad.
Because I think we have, like, one thing I was talking to my friend earlier today about is I want to try my best to figure out whatever it takes for the particular issue, but like a program or a matrice or some sort of script or just like a model of some sort for whatever issue somebody's trying to tackle. And so right now we're talking about the interrelational dynamics between males and females.
Yes.
And I think we have a lot of talk about authority and responsibility in our culture.
Yes.
So it's easy for us to figure out that spectrum that we talked about, where you need to take up the right opportunity, and at the same time, like I said, use that opportunity to get responsibility, and through the responsibility, leverage your leadership in the proper way.
Yes.
And that's the proper state for most men.
Mm-hmm.
And then for most women, you're supposed to not entirely be a slave and fully obey to everything a man says, especially when he's being an improper authority figure. And then, so that's getting away from the enslavement. And then on the other end, you want to select for the right men, right? Isn't that the other end?
The other end was that
they
don't give, or are you talking about
so
the
I guess
middle?
I'm trying to get this, I guess, nailed down. I think for women, it's a balance between selecting the right authority figures, which is the enslavement piece, and then also submitting at the same time to the right authority figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's almost I need to think about that.
Which is why
I could think about that for
probably,
a month straight and still more to think about.
Which is why dating is so important, in my opinion.
To get to know yourself and others, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To know, who is this other person? Are they going to be a good leader? Am I going to be a good leader in your sense?
Yeah.
Are they leading me properly right now? Mm-hmm. And are you leading her properly right now? Because it starts there in dating. Mm-hmm. If they can't lead you correctly in dating, why would they lead you in marriage?
Yeah.
It's not like marriage just fixes it, you know? So that's why it starts in dating. And then you just observe yourself. And is this someone that I'd be willing to follow?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like more than submit. I know that that's the word, but that's really genuinely what it is. That, yes, the church submits for the authority, but it's mostly just following Jesus. And,
Yeah, so you have to follow correctly and then have the know-how to understand when authority is not being used well.
Yes.
To then call it out, and then we can get better authority back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the job of most women.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would say so.
Have you thought about kids?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How many kids do you want?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Do you have a preference for girls or boys?
I prefer boys.
Yeah. Would you want a boy and girl or 2 boys?
I'd like a boy and a girl, or 2 boys and a girl. Because I know having older brothers is awesome. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Knowing all this that you've been thinking about now, and obviously this will evolve more as you get closer to it, but what would you tell your daughter and your son on how to act? Because as we kind of covered, you kind of lacked this for a bit. Is that a good way to, a fair way to say it? You didn't
think about it.
You didn't think about it much before. Mm-hmm. Would you try to have them think about it a little bit more at an earlier age? Or how would you kind of deal with this for them?
Probably in high school.
You'd start talking to them about it?
I think so. Because that's the time I feel that everyone's starting to actually date. And in a lot of girls' minds, that's oh my gosh, I could marry this guy. I probably wouldn't talk about it before then. But I do think that, the greatest example, in my opinion, and the best way you can teach your kids is just living it. Because, they're your children.
Being
you're
the model.
Parents. They see you every day until they're 18 or maybe sometimes longer. So you have, the best time to show them what that means to be, like a wife who submits and for a husband to properly lead. So, I mean, I don't think that I would really get down deep with them until high school when it actually like looks like it could be like useful, you know?
Yeah. Something they'll be dealing with at that point.
Right. But until then I would just do, I mean, and that's even if we didn't have kids. I feel like just because like a person's marriage in Christianity perspective, I'm saying, is like supposed to be an example of Jesus in the church. And in my opinion, you should be in a marriage treating your spouse a certain way with respect and sacrifice and all that stuff, to the extent, not saying it has to be perfect, but to a certain extent that someone could walk up and just like talk to you guys for a little bit and understand like, whoa, like that's how it is to like be a Jesus follower. And like this is what marriage is supposed to look like. You know, because not saying there's this thing that I heard a pastor say, and it was like, there has never been an unsuccessful marriage between two Christians who are directly following Jesus. And when I first heard that, I was like, that's not true, because, and he was like, no. If there is a person who is slipping up in marriage, who is not following the Lord, not living for the Lord, they may say they're Christian, but they're not like actively living that out. And so two people who are like wholeheartedly pursuing the Lord, obviously there's mistakes, but like take an affair, for example, that is a big mistake, but that's also very obviously not living for Jesus, not respecting his spouse or her spouse, whatever. And
but even to get like, because the devil's in the details, like even like, I don't know if this is too specific, it might be, but like just for the fun of it, like the old, like if you're about to go out with your boyfriend, and
like right now, like me,
like you right now, we're about to go out with your boyfriend, and right now you guys are trying to practice being the best partners you can for each other right now, right? And so you're about to go out, and maybe that day you got like a new shirt or something like that, and you put together this nice new outfit that you really like, and you go to him and ask him, do I look good in this? That old adage. And he, let's just say for the sake of it, he sees something off with it, or doesn't like a certain part of it, or maybe like a color's off, or whatever it is. It's not quite clicking with him as it might with you. What's the proper thing to do there in the man's position?
I mean, to be honest.
Tell you that why not? He doesn't like something about it?
I mean, but that's just me. I'm a very honest, straightforward person. And so when I'm asking for an honest opinion. But maybe many women are asking for a fake opinion. But I also, I mean, from my perspective, I think I dress pretty uniquely anyways, so I'm not surprised. I mean, do you think, sorry. No, you're good.
Do you think, like, there's room for that almost white lie in some Christian marriages? Like, if that's something that works for their marriage? Because if he says, like, yeah, you look good, even though he doesn't think that, but that's, like, maybe something in their marriage, but even that's a lie, though? Do you think, like...
I mean, I don't think that's a reason for divorce.
No, but, like, as you were kind of... I'm trying to connect this, I guess, back to, like, how you were saying that, as that preacher was saying, one misstep is still you being not Christian.
No, that's not what I was saying. Oh. That's not what I was saying at all.
Oh, okay.
Because no Christian is perfect. There's no way you're ever going to live a perfect life at all.
Okay.
So, I'm not saying that, like, one white lie is like, oh my gosh, you're not living for Jesus.
Okay.
You know, like, obviously we're going to mess up. Obviously we're going to make mistakes. There's not a single person on this earth besides Jesus who can live a life perfectly.
Okay.
And that's not the expectation. The expectation is just to try
and do your best,
live like Jesus. But just because you mess up doesn't mean you're lesser of a Christian.
Okay.
At all.
Is that not what the preacher was trying to argue, though?
No, he was trying to argue that, like, just because you mess up doesn't mean that you're, like, not trying to pursue
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. It's like if two people were married and one guy started straying away from his wife, he met this girl at work, blah, blah, blah. He started flirting and lusting. Those are all sinful things. Doesn't mean that necessarily, like, he's not a Christian anymore, but he is actively doing it in his mind, and he knows that he's doing something wrong. He stops going to church. He's like, nope, you go to church without me. I don't want to go. He starts hanging out with this woman that is actively choosing to go, like, a different path from the Lord. And so, and then, well, it ends up as an affair. And so that person was not purposefully pursuing the Lord.
Okay. I see what you mean.
But she was, or maybe, I don't know. But, like, in that instance.
In that, scenario.
It doesn't mean that he's, like, not necessarily Christian anymore. It's just, like, two people who are actively pursuing the Lord. Like, they will make it work. They just will.
Yeah.
But that guy is not actively pursuing the Lord. So, because he knows exactly what he's doing in his mind, and he's choosing over and over and over. He's not just choosing, like, that woman over his wife. He's choosing this sin over Jesus.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make him less of a Christian, but it does mean that he's stopped pursuing the Lord in that time of his life. So that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry if I worded it wrong.
No, you're good. I might have heard it wrong too, but thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I like this topic.
Well, good. I'm glad. And I would just like to clarify, this is my own perspective. I'm not saying all Christians think this way. And there you go. Please take everything I say with a grain of salt. So,
yeah.
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 But
don't go crazy out there, folks.
No.
Yeah. This is just a conversation.
Just conversation. Yeah. So, yep.
Like, do you think that if the majority of people followed these scripts to a T of the men being a proper leader, and under that first, the woman being a proper submitter,
yes,
do you think most people would find happiness under that? Like, trying to get obviously not everybody,
right?
But do you think there's a generality there that most people would go for that?
I think that maybe more than just, like, the roles, but, like, representing Jesus in the church, I believe that more marriages would be successful.
Yeah. Okay.
And probably bring happiness. I would think a successful marriage would bring happiness.
Yeah.
But yes, successful overall. Yeah. Just, I mean, the world is so broken, and marriages and dating are supposed to be like, you're supposed to feel this certain way from this person. And then people get to that point where they're like, well, I just don't feel it anymore. And that's why they divorce. Because they're like, well, I felt the love, but the love's not really there. I just don't feel it. And love is portrayed in many aspects of culture to be a feeling. And that's why people just stop, because they think it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
But it's an action, obviously. And so that's, like, of course your marriage is going to suck if you're just depending on these good feelings that actually only last probably, like, a few months at least. Because you're just depending on feelings. And feelings can change. That's why it's kind of silly to walk into a lifelong commitment only based upon feelings that are not permanent. You know?
I like that. Yeah, I like that point a lot. Do you think that, I guess, like, being an outsider a little bit, to me, when I hear, like...
What do you mean an outsider?
Like, I guess, like, not following Christianity like you do. Like, an outside of the religion a bit.
Yes. Okay.
Like, I'm a casual observer, I guess I think of myself sometimes.
Yes, an outsider.
Like, I have an interest, but, like, I think of myself outside of it.
Yeah, okay, fair.
In general, you know.
Not because we push you out.
No, you guys
don't hate you.
No, and I've come to many youth groups and stuff like that, and I've enjoyed it.
Yes.
I guess, like, do you think what I was going to ask was, do you think like there's like what word do I want to use? Like a disadvantage towards women where like men get to be like, obviously we're never going to be as good as Jesus.
Yes.
But do you think it's like a little bit like you could get a bit of a self-righteousness from I get to imitate Jesus while you get to imitate the church, which is like this building?
Okay, so that's something I was going to tell you because I think you got confused about the equality part of a marriage. Okay. So I was going to explain to you that, yes, every Christian is called to live a life like Jesus. Mm-hmm. That comes first. Okay. And with the representation of Jesus in the church of being a marriage, that is like your role.
That's why the word imitation's used. Man imitates Jesus and woman imitates church, right? Or do I have that wrong?
But that's what I just said. It's like a role.
Okay.
We're supposed to imitate Jesus. Like
everybody is.
All Christians.
Yeah.
That's what we're called to.
Okay.
To live a life like Jesus. Because, you know, that's who we are, and then we get married. Mm-hmm. It's not we are married and then we are Christians, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's like my role when I get married.
So I guess I'm trying to picture this, so I want to get it right. But like broad scale, male or female, we want to imitate Jesus.
Yes.
But then do you think if you're Christian, and then under that, under marriage, man imitates more Jesus, or is it more like your relationship?
It's relationship.
It's more the relationship.
So how Jesus treated the church
reflects Jesus in the church. Okay.
A husband should treat the church.
Okay.
Like a man should treat his wife.
Yeah.
And then how the church followed Jesus is how women are supposed to follow Jesus.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. That adds some clarity to that.
Are supposed to imitate Jesus in his lifespan, just in general. Yeah. The story of his life. Okay. But in the relationship part, yes, that is how it's supposed to be. Okay. It's just like, that's what I meant by like the role. So like, yes, our main goal is supposed to imitate the life of Jesus, to the best of our ability, knowing that we will never be perfect and we're always going to make mistakes, but to at least try. Yeah. And then, yes. So that is always going to be my first and foremost goal, even when I step into marriage, to be like Jesus. Because, you know.
That makes sense. So both of you do your best to imitate Jesus.
Yes.
And then you develop a relationship just as Jesus did with the church.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. That clarifies it more.
Okay. Glad I could clarify.
Yeah. I'm glad you did. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Do you think that this model almost of like how man and woman should act would still work for people that are not heterosexual, people that are homosexual? Do you think? And this would apply to them because you would have maybe two women together.
Yes.
But one is, I think in general, one is going to be a little bit more masculine in tendencies, and the other is going to be a little bit more feminine. And so if we were to have two Christian lesbians married together, then is that something that is kind of at play where this still applies to them in the sense that whoever's, and this is where it comes to an individual basis within their own relationship where you just kind of have the more masculine woman in the relationship have more of the leadership power, and then the more feminine woman submit?
I think that is.
Do you think that works?
I think so. Yeah.
That would be applicable?
I mean, I think that, like I said, I think that representation of Jesus in the church in any marriage
is good.
Okay. And could lead to success.
Yeah. But then with this, like, it's not a clear man and woman, I guess.
Right.
So it's just up to that relationship at that point to then identify who's more the church and then more Jesus.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
But that is a tricky situation.
dichotomy,
I feel like,
right?
In general, yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, could the not metaphor, but could the line that your relationship should imitate Jesus in church for any couple, could that mean that at times the man is going to be more associated with the church and the woman's going to be more associated with Jesus, in the relationship, and then at other times it's going to flip? Does that make sense? Because it's more of like a
like
a
in
switch
what
model.
Certain specific things are you talking about? You're talking about,
I guess,
heterosexual.
Because how we've been
or?
talking about it. Yeah, I guess in heterosexual, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the roles can be flipped.
Okay.
Occasionally, and I think.
But it's more the woman imitating the church most of the time.
I would believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That is, but that's not. See, that's what I mean. That like every circumstance
is going to be different.
So that's why I'm like, sometimes the woman can decide if they want to buy the house and she signs the thing, or the man, or and then I fully believe that the man can submit to the woman too. I mean, I don't,
So could there be Christian relationships where the woman takes up the authority?
Not generally.
Okay.
Not overall. I don't believe that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure in the world, yes.
Okay.
But I don't believe if they're trying to imitate and represent it the best to their ability, I don't believe that that's how it would be.
So just sometimes that can switch up.
I mean, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that's why I was saying I don't think every single situation of every moment in life is going to be the man.
But the majority will probably be up to him.
I would think so.
Yeah. With him having the leadership role if he's properly taking on
doing
responsibility.
Things. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that's how it would be.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have any questions for me, or?
I have to pee.
Okay.
I have to pee really bad.
I can
Where's the bathroom?
hit pause on this.
Okay.
We'll be back, folks.
Water today.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm drinking a lot. Got a drinking problem. Your face. Sometimes I say certain things and you just stare at me.
Well, sometimes I just don't know how to react.
How to respond to the things I say.
So I just do it with my face. It's nicer than words. Maybe not, honestly. Okay, we're back. Yeah.
Pretty cool setup though, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would say so.
I have the ability to have a third mic.
Whoa.
And this has 4 ports as well. So I could do 4 if I got another mic.
Wow.
Which would be kind of cool, right?
That would be cool.
To get 4 people rocking.
Mm-hmm. That'd be super cool. Well, do you want to keep talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we only hit one of the topics,
we did.
Right?
We did.
I feel like this one and one other, the complementary one kind of connects though,
it does.
Right?
Yeah. So this won't take
maybe
too
a good
long.
bridge there.
Yes. Complementarianism.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a good definition in your head for that?
I believe that the best definition I could give is that the main belief of complementarianism is that women have a specific role in the church, which is not to have authority. So that means they're not allowed to teach and basically be pastors. And that's the main, I would say that's the main thing.
Okay. I guess you leave men out of your definition though.
Well, the obvious is that the men have the authority and they do teach.
Yeah.
So
do you feel, I feel like I already know the answer to this, but do you feel like robbed a little bit?
Oh, completely.
Okay.
Yes. Does it how would it make you feel to be told that you can't stand up in front of an entire church body and preach the word of Jesus just because you're a woman.
Yeah.
Well, that's called sexism.
Yeah. So does that feel like it's not a good rule?
I believe that it's skewed.
Yeah.
Because I'll pull it up. There's specific Bible verses that complementarianism is based off of.
Okay.
So I'll get them for you because 1 Timothy 2:12, and it's like a whole thing.
So I think, and I'm still doing a lot of thinking in this, so I could have a different opinion on this if you asked me even in like 3 days.
I would love to hear your opinion right now.
But like, and I don't know. I feel like I have to say it again, but I feel like most women might like to submit.
In the church?
And I mean
submit
in the and I guess from here on out, if it's not clear, when we say submit, it's submitting to
the proper authority.
A proper authority.
Yes.
And so I agree that especially in the extreme cases, if a woman's being abused or anything like that, that is a improper authority that man is wielding, and that woman should not submit to that man.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that should be, I guess, stated.
Yes.
So when we're saying submission in this sense, it's to a proper authority. And I like what you said, and I feel like it needs to be said again that you said earlier, where it almost seems like we have this tendency to think that women should submit first and then the man gets authority.
Yes.
But I like that you said that maybe it shouldn't exactly be like that. Maybe the man should get his authority properly together and his responsibility properly together, and then a woman will submit to him. And I think that's more how reality plays out too. I think that a man gets more competent, more skilled, and takes on more responsibility, and then as a effect of having many different things in order, but also just his status in order as well in general, more women find that more attractive, and that's the woman doing her job of selecting a good man, of not enslaving herself to somebody who's a tyrant, of taking...
Hate those tyrants.
Yeah. But of starting to listen to the right men, I guess, maybe.
Yes.
So...
So you think that that's the same in the church? Is what you're saying?
Can you ask that again?
Like, because you said you think that women like to submit. Which makes sense, because if that's the way the Lord made us to be, then that makes sense.
I can speak a little bit from like a psychological perspective where women are higher in agreeableness, which is interesting.
Okay.
And I think it's not good necessarily for the workforce, because you're not somebody that might negotiate a raise or try to get a higher position. You're somebody that might take that more submitted role almost in an organization. You would have a higher tendency than somebody who's disagreeable, who will go in and almost say, give me a raise, this is the reasons why that I bring value to the company, or else I'll leave. That's kind of... that's a whole different issue in itself.
I think that's a completely different...
Do you disagree with that?
I think that's a different situation, because I'm talking specifically in a marriage.
Okay.
So I definitely think that there are many...
I guess to reel it back, psychologically, more women tend to be more agreeable than men.
If that's psychologically proven, then I will believe you.
Okay. On average, that is. Like, more men tend to be disagreeable, and you see that in why there's more men in the prison system. More men break laws and stuff like that. So that's how you see it play out in reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, there is a bit, and there's probably more that I don't even know of, but I know that for sure, that there's a bit of a biological basis, which is what I always go to. Okay. Like I connected it to NASCAR drivers and stuff like that earlier. And so trying to find why we see these things play out in reality.
Okay, so you're kind of like hinting at the church that like the women would... More
women tend to want to follow anyways, I guess, is my intuition, I guess.
That's fair.
And I want to say that this is a no like definitive statement, but that's what I think I see right now.
Okay.
And maybe I find more information that actually disproves that, but I think as of right now that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, let me read you exactly what the main Bible verse that complementarianism is based off. Okay.
Yeah, hit me with it.
So this is Paul talking. Do you know who Paul is in the church?
Not well, if I'm being honest. No.
Okay. He was an apostle, so he's like a disciple. I actually don't understand the difference. But people say there is one. I don't get it.
Of an apostle to a disciple?
Yes.
Okay.
I like to think that the same.
Okay.
Please don't come at me. But basically they're just like they follow Jesus around. So Paul is talking to this group of people, and he says, a woman should learn in silence with full submission. I do not allow a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. Instead, she is to be silent. For Adam was created first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and transgressed.
I got goosebumps. Well, because what that makes me think of is that connecting to that submission granted when the authority is present.
Uh-huh.
And so if proper, real, rock solid masculine authority is present in a good, strong man, then what I'm hearing is there's no need for authority of women over men, because we already have that strong authority in that. Does that make sense within a man?
Not really. Can you explain it again?
Well, we both agree that this submission takes place when the authority is taken. And
yes.
In order to have proper authority taken, we need proper responsibility to be taken from the man himself. And so if a man was to do this, he would have all the answers and guidance already. He's already primed already because of everything he's experienced and learned.
I mean, not to perfection, but
the best he can, the best we got right now.
The best we got.
And probably, what I'm hearing from that is better than what a woman could offer. Because what I'm hearing from that is, once the man offers that, a woman just needs to offer submission. Am I getting that right?
I think I'm confused in what context you're talking about.
Okay. Maybe I'm making it confusing.
Yeah, but you often do that, so it's nothing new.
Hey, now.
Yeah, I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay. Maybe I could do a better of articulating it, but I'll let you just go on.
Okay, well, you were saying that man has more to offer than the woman?
Mm-hmm.
Because he has
taken up the proper authority and responsibility, the best that he can, to imitate Jesus.
But why can't a woman do that? Because that's her.
Because her job is to be more like the church and listen to Jesus.
But that's a wife's job.
Oh. Yeah, I guess I'm saying in the context of her. Oh. See, I think that's what I'm doing wrong here, is I'm conflating things that should be done within a marriage to general principles of how men and women should interact with each other.
Right.
Let's talk about that then.
Okay.
Why do we need to make this separation between whether the context is in a marriage or out of a marriage? If within a marriage we have these scripts of a woman submitting to her man and a man properly leading, why do those scripts dissolve when we get into just how men and women interact in general?
Because not every interaction is going to be like let's just say like you and me. We're not dating, we're not married. Okay? But just because you're a guy and just because I'm a girl doesn't mean that I have to follow you, just like the church. There's no reason for me to, you know? Like there's no reason for you to lead me.
Okay.
Right? Because you're not my husband. So there's not
I guess that's what I'm trying to parse out. Why is there no reason there then?
Well, why would there be?
I don't know, because in the most simplified version of a man and woman being together in marriage, we establish these roles.
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out, is why does the roles dissolve when there's no marriage attached to it?
I believe that would be because, Jesus stated that, like, how he treats the church and how the church follows him is the example of marriage.
I guess why only in... We said women submit in marriage.
Yes.
But then why can't a woman be a preacher then? Because that's in the context of the church. It's not in the context of the religion.
That's the point.
So is that almost a problem you have?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole point. I'm glad you figured that out.
Okay.
Because Paul refers to Adam and Eve in this context, in this statement.
Okay.
And he's like, well, this is how it is with Adam and Eve.
So, sorry. I feel like I keep... But you're giving me so many things that...
That's okay.
I have a lot of questions about.
Okay.
So, okay. Why... So, do you think in general, like, in the Christian community, there's almost been this conflation that marriage roles are this, therefore all most male and female even friendly relationships should look like that?
I wouldn't go to that extent.
Okay.
I think that this concept is just applied to maybe not many things.
Do you think it too many things maybe? Instead of it just being applied to marriage, it should be applied to other things?
If it's applied to other things other than marriage, then yes, I would believe that it's applied to too many things.
So you feel right now it's currently being done wrong?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Because God specifically said the man, the husband, is supposed to be the head of the household. And the woman, the wife, is supposed to submit to the head of the household.
Okay.
He did not
just
say
in the household
that the man is supposed to be the head of the church. He said Jesus is the head of the church, obviously, because he freaking made the church, basically.
Okay.
But it doesn't... They apply this man leadership and woman submission to the church.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, like, men are following... If you think about it, men are also following... in the church. If they're not up there preaching, they're following another man. Yeah. But it's okay because, like,
it's a man.
It's a man, and they have authority. Okay. So,
Okay.
But
so where do we go from here? Like, do you have thoughts on this? Of like, are there other churches that share this view of yours, or are there other people?
There's a lot of people around me who share this view. Yes.
I guess, is the church you're in have this view?
I'm not currently going to a church.
Okay.
Yeah. But
do you plan to be?
Yes, at some point, whenever I know where I'm living. But my old church did believe in this complementarianism view. Okay.
So you kind of disagreed with your old church then?
I agreed at first.
And then you thought about it more?
But I talked to some people, and, like, I, like, read specifically where this Bible verse has, like, created this concept, and because of that, I don't agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because I don't... Paul in this text said, I do not permit a woman. But does God, not like Paul is, like, wrong at all.
But if he's like a disciple or apostle or whatever, isn't he a mouthpiece for God? So then what he is saying does reflect what God's will is?
He could be. I mean, he's supposed to be, but he's also a human being. Yeah. I'm not saying what he is saying is wrong.
Okay.
I'm just saying I think it could have been misinterpreted or the context that he's even talking about. I mean,
so could there be a split that maybe he's in this particular notion taking improper authority, and therefore we shouldn't listen to him?
No,
Would you go as
I
far
don't
to
believe
say that?
that. No,
Okay.
I don't believe that. I believe that, like, in this specific context, even at the end, he says women need to stay silent in the church. And there's another verse that says women should be quiet in the church. But if you look back in the context, I mean, women back then were not even allowed to have education.
Yeah.
So when they did come, they came with their husbands. And then when they didn't understand things, they would shout at their husbands. So then they would be like, please be quiet in the church. But it's just because they didn't understand.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that women can't speak up in church. It's just like all the context. I don't know the context for that specific phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that Paul is wrong or that we shouldn't follow his teachings, because he was a very wise person.
Okay.
I don't have the answer for that. But I'm just saying, like, it's not necessarily
Written.
God did not speak this
Okay.
into existence that women should not teach.
Okay.
But the thing that I think is funny is that women aren't allowed to teach. So they're not allowed to get up in front of a church body, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed to teach people.
Mm-hmm.
But they're automatically submitted into this role of teaching Sunday school to children, which is teaching. So they can teach children, but they can't teach adults. Just because they're women?
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're still permitted to teach, apparently, to children, which in many cases is probably very, sometimes more important, because they're the ones who are young and growing up and developing and getting all of these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not more important, but more influential, I would say.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to teach children, but not adults. Because, I don't know, adults are just... So does that mean, like, children have, like, lesser value because women can teach them, but not adults? What does that mean, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just find that very interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you go down to Sunday schools, it's usually... majority is women teaching. But it can't be a woman up there teaching adults.
So you say Jesus. Interesting, and it's a very, like, neutral take.
Mm-hmm.
Would... Like, if you let your emotions get the better of you, would it be more, like, infuriating that this is at play? Like, do you actually have, like, more of an opinion on this than just it's an interesting thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I genuinely, like, understand why this whole concept has come to be.
Okay. From
biblical context.
Yeah.
Or, no, not context, because context is very off, I think. But just biblical verses, I just have an understanding of, like, okay, that's where they're coming from. Just because I know that doesn't mean, like, they're not wrong. And who knows? I could be wrong, too. This is just what I believe. And maybe this is how the Lord wanted it to be. But from this part, and that God didn't say this at the very beginning of the making of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, churches weren't even a thing then. But I do know that he did say that, like, husband should be the head of the household and wives should submit. That's all I know. Mm-hmm. So to apply that to a huge thing like a church kind of is taking that into our own interpretation. Yeah. Just allowing the men to continue to have power.
Like it's a bit of a reach almost.
It is, in my opinion. Yeah. So
what do you want to do about it?
I mean, have conversations with people.
Okay. How many people have you talked to about this? Many?
Probably like over 5.
Okay.
Not many people, but I mean, the
More
people around me. Yeah. The people around me definitely agree.
Your boyfriend?
My boyfriend does believe that too, yeah. It's just, I don't know. Or no, I think it's been more than 5 now that I'm counting, but yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of like why wouldn't women be able to teach? Like that doesn't make sense just because they're a woman. Like, does that sound like the Lord's heart behind that? That the Lord would be like, no, she can't teach. And if you look back in the Bible, there are many women in the Bible who preached just like men. they did the exact same thing.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Moses's sister. I'll look it up. She preached up a storm, let's just say. I forget her name. Hold on. Miriam was, yes, a prophet, which is basically, I mean, back then they didn't have churches established, but they did preaching the word of Jesus, which is what a pastor does nowadays.
Yeah.
So, I mean, women did that back then.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, how did that...
Like a head scratcher almost.
Yeah.
Right?
Like if that was allowed back then, how has it shifted nowadays to
Yeah.
like women can't do that anymore?
Yeah.
It doesn't make much sense, And I mean, the value of women kind of goes down in that instance. If they're not allowed to teach, well then,
Yeah, because for like the first hour or whatever of this, I was connecting those from that the marriage stuff should bleed into everything in our reality. And I don't know what that was. I guess it was just like an assumption. But it seems like it's not just me that has this assumption, and it's almost made its way into some church systems as well, right? Do you think it's the majority of churches, of Christian churches?
No, just because there's different
so it's
types of churches.
like a subset of churches?
Yeah, like Southern Baptist.
Or like that? Okay.
Southern Baptist churches, I believe. I can't speak for the other ones, but I mean that's the one where I came from.
Okay.
So, they have at least like that foundation of things. I would say probably, I mean, majority, all churches who have men as pastors, I would say believe that, yes. So, because otherwise they would have a woman preaching.
Oh, okay. Oh, just by sheer result of their actions.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think.
So even though it might not be articulated from them because they only have chosen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's churches who have men as pastors and they believe that. And maybe it's just a woman doesn't want to be a pastor right now.
Yeah,
and that's fine. But I would say majority would believe that.
Yeah.
That.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Have you talked to your parents about this? No. Have you brought it up in any form?
I'm trying to think. No. Because my mother comes from Southern Baptist.
So you already know the answer, basically, of what they'd say to what you're saying?
Honestly, I don't know their answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had this conversation with them, but I probably would like to not have that happen ever. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to discuss this with them?
Maybe one day farther on down the line, but not right now. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's kind of just, it feels degrading in some ways. And I mean, if you think about when Jesus died, he resurrected, 3 days later, the greatest story of all time. And then he who's the first people he sees?
Women?
It's women. And what does he tell them? To go into the village and tell everyone the great news. He doesn't say that to men. So women were very special even in Jesus' time. They followed him. They were right beside him, just like the disciples. And although they're not spoken about as much in the Bible, they were very present. I mean, So, I don't know. I just think women definitely have very special places in the church. And I believe that, I don't know why there would be a problem if a woman is preaching. I mean, as long as they're preaching the right things, why would it not be okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think the main reason is because if a woman is up there and she's teaching, that means that she's not submitting to, I don't know, the men of the church.
Well, I guess would the problem be that, like, if she's takes this role as preacher, and at some point she would be a married woman, then she would be dealing a lot of authority out to her husband in the crowd. So wouldn't there be a conflict there, maybe? Just like a little devil's advocate a bit. Like, isn't that a conflict, I guess, in the church?
I guess it could be.
Because, like, eventually...
That is, like, authority, but like I said, like that, it like the roles can flip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's, like, they can't flip, but obviously we already talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just believe that, yes, teaching the word of Jesus does give you authority, but actually anyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to stand up in the front of the church.
But I guess,
to
like,
do that.
just to hammer it home, like, it doesn't make her submitted to her husband. So then isn't that a problem where they're not real? And I know you said they can switch, but this is like a big flip. This is big where she's doing a lot of the authority speaking and everything like that. So it'd be almost like she's the head of the household.
Why
you
is
would imagine.
Why is it the household though, when it's in the church? Like why can't she be submitting?
Wouldn't it be hard for people to parse out, for like just people in general with our own tendencies and everything like that, for a wife to go from standing in front of her entire church that she has her whole heart in and everything, and giving a sermon, and it could, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be good, but then to therefore step down and then go right back to submitting to her husband? Does that seem a little like it would be a little hard for everybody involved?
I mean, I wouldn't see that as the case.
Okay.
Because it's not like your mindset changes. It's not like you'd get up there and be like, all right, I'm going to preach the word of Jesus and I'm in charge now. And then when I get off the stage, all of a sudden I'm in submission mode.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's how it is. I don't know. I don't think that's how it would be.
Okay.
I don't know why you can't submit and have authority at the same time. I don't know why that's not, like, possible.
Because those are two opposites of the spectrum. And I'm just trying to push on you. Like, I'm just trying to poke at you to really get, like, the ideas out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that's, like, two opposite sides of the spectrum where you have authority on one side and submission on one side. So that alone, like, you said you don't know why those things can't be at play at once, but that's like a room being dark and light at the same time. Like, they're two opposites of a thing. So that's why I would say it would be hard to be authoritative and then submissive at the same time.
So she wouldn't be able to be like a pastor because she's someone's wife and she can't get up there and speak for an hour out of her week?
I mean, it's a lot easier with context, and we're dealing with generalities. And personally, I don't have any stake in this. I'm just trying to push on you to I don't know, just.
Then should she just not get married? So then she won't have to submit, or?
I guess. Like, these are good questions, yeah. But I guess I'm just saying in general, like, the overwhelming majority of Christians want to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And also at the same time, if it's definitely in the cards that they're going to be married, then any woman pastor is going to be then dealing authority to not only a crowd, but then also would have to transition from dealing authority in a good amount. It's not just an hour, it's stuff outside of the church, and then also pouring your heart and soul into that hour as well. And there's a lot more that goes into it than just the hour. And then to be because then wouldn't you be expected in general to then step down from the pedestal and then submit again to your husband? And I feel like it would be hard to switch that mindset and to live a life of bouncing back and forth.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that I don't understand where you're getting, like, this pedestal thing. Because, like, why are pastors up on a pedestal?
Well, they're up on the stage because we hold them to a little bit of a higher authority, is what I mean by the pedestal. Like, we put them on a stage, in a sense. We put them physically above ourselves for a brief moment so that they can preach to us, right?
I guess
is that
so.
right? Yeah.
That is the case for most churches. Yes, they do get up on a stage.
They get up on a stage or some sort of raised surface, and it's partly to see them better, but it also raises them above us.
Okay.
And you could even say, like, metaphorically, for that brief time, they are above us because for that brief time they are speaking the words of the Bible, which is above us, right? If we look at it from a Christian sense. And so then said woman would have to step down from being above, and not only step down as each male preacher would have to do, but then also metaphorically take another couple steps down to then be submissive to her husband, right? Is what I'm trying to get at.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like I advocate for this in general, but I guess I'm just trying to push your ideas to their furthest extent so we can kind of
then
get
I would
somewhere
say that
with them.
women who want to be pastors should not get married.
But then I don't know.
Because then they're not allowed. Then they would be required to submit, and then if that's not allowed, then why would they? Then
yeah,
it doesn't make sense for them.
I guess is there like some sort of
and then that's not fair.
Yeah. Is there some sort of, like, don't you kind of have like a duty as a Christian to have a marriage, to therefore have a kid? Is that not in it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Okay, maybe
I mean, yes, the Lord said to Adam and Eve, like, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah. Isn't that like, and I might be speaking out of turn a bit, but like, isn't that one of the things that it means to be a good Christian is to produce offspring? No,
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I mean, let's just take it into context. Adam and Eve were the only people on the earth. So, yes, God told them to, have children because they were the only ones. But in also another sense, sorry, my boyfriend's calling me.
You're good.
Being fruitful and multiplying, is like what's just think about the purpose of that. What's the purpose of in God's context? Obviously to make more children, but like in God's context, why would he say that?
I don't know.
What I think is that, like, to be fruitful and multiply is to, like, make more disciples. To, like, follow the Lord. Yeah. And we're called to do that, even if we don't have children. To be fruitful and multiply. Like, disciple-wise, you know? And, like, you can do that without having children. And I don't believe that that is an inaccurate, like, which I've heard, don't worry, that, like, the sole purpose of marriage is to have children. And if you don't have children, then, like, I mean, I'm adopted. And in school, I went to a Catholic high school, Catholic middle school. Not the best. But I went. There were 2 other girls in my grade who were also adopted from China. Our religion teacher, who, by the way, a few years later, he got arrested for child porn. So, whatever he said, But this was Catholic view. I don't know if it's shared with everyone, but he did say, he told my adopted friend that because her parents did not biologically have her, they were not a family, and that her parents weren't actually married. And so, yes, I've definitely heard that the main reason to get married is to have children. And then if you don't have children, you're bad Christians, and you're not fulfilling the Lord.
But you don't ascribe to that.
But, well, what about if a woman can't have children? That's not her fault. Yeah. And what if they don't have the means to adopt? Then what? Are they bad Christians? Are they not fulfilling their purpose of marriage? Like, like what? Yeah. You're not going to go up to tell a woman who's infertile that she's not doing the sole duty of her marriage.
I agree with you. Yeah. But I guess, like, to push on that just a bit, isn't that like a very small subset of the population? And so therefore generally most people will have the ability to procreate, and therefore, maybe this isn't my words, but in general, as good Christians, they should go and create young disciples of theirs to then pass off on to.
I mean, I would love to see the Bible verse that specifically says, like, God commands us to have more children.
Well, didn't you just, like,
I said, yes, he was telling Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. Yeah. That is within the context, though.
Oh, okay. So that doesn't necessarily apply to us, then?
And this is why I'm never going to know all the answers, and I'm never going to pretend to know all the answers because I'm not God.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I don't think that it makes you a bad Christian to not have children.
Okay.
I don't want to have children. I don't want to give birth to children. But if I adopt, does that mean that I'm not fulfilling my duty as a Christian? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm adopting a child, and I'm going to raise that child in a Christian household so that they can know that they're loved and that Jesus did literally everything for them.
Yeah.
And I'm saving them from a home that maybe they would not have grown up in a very good circumstance. And so I don't know why that's, like, you know,
a problem
worse than biologically pushing out a freaking child from my vag.
Do you think that's a little bit of a problem in almost like Christianity yes. In general, is that some of it is left up into interpretation, and you almost need to you have to, like, search almost for a church that shares your own values to then feel like you're at home?
No, I don't think so, because no matter what church you go to, there are going to be disagreeing views, no matter what.
Okay.
Whether it's you or them. I truly just think it's, like, the Holy Spirit that you have to count on. Because, like, why are you... Like, I'm not going to rely on, like, humans to tell me what, like, the Lord says, necessarily.
What
like,
do you rely on?
Pastors. But, like, when certain things like this come to be, I would rely on the Holy Spirit. Because the Holy Spirit is even better than a pastor, actually, because pastor's a human. So the Holy Spirit was given to us when Jesus went back up after he resurrected, given to us to help us as our time on earth. So, I mean, the Holy Spirit is supposed to guide you, give you wisdom. Of course, like Jesus, yes, Jesus is supposed to too, but, like, the Holy Spirit was specifically given to us because Jesus was leaving the earth. He left it for us. So I would rely on the Holy Spirit to give me discernment on what
does that look like when you rely on him?
I mean, prayer.
Okay.
And just trust that the Holy Spirit will, you know, give me guidance on what I should do or what I should not do. And, you know, if it is a sin, which I believe sin is a little bit too far, but if it is wrong to not have children biologically, then I don't think that makes me a bad Christian. You know, and if I did, I feel like that would be my own conviction of, like, okay, and that's something that just you have to pray about. To, like, truly listen to the Holy Spirit to give you conviction and to, like, actually listen to the conviction, because everyone has, I guess, different convictions of things. Some people will not watch certain movies, listen to certain music, and some other people will. I don't know if that's different convictions or if that's just because they are listening to the Holy Spirit differently. But, yeah, I don't know. So, but, yeah.
Brief little phone break. We've been going for a bit. What was I going to grab? My phone, actually. No, this.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the third topic, right?
Yes, purity culture. Can I call my boyfriend first?
Yeah, you want to pause?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. if you want to hit
Sure.
purity culture first, though.
Yes. Would love to hear what you have to say.
There's not too much, though.
Okay, we're going to be talking about purity culture now.
Can you define purity
Yes, I can try my best.
culture?
I feel like it is another belief in Christianity. What a surprise.
That you disagree with?
Yes. Well,
for the most
like
part.
I said, it's been skewed, I feel like.
It's lost some balance to it.
Yes, for sure. I would say the main belief is that purity culture refers to like the purity of you in reference to like sexual immortality.
Your virginity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you have sex before marriage, the less pure you are.
The more dirt is put into the water.
Yes.
Right.
You just get dirtier and dirtier.
What's the other one they use?
There's so many.
Was there like a sandwich one?
Ew, what? Probably, dude, honestly. I don't know. There's one that, like, you're a piece...
chocolate bar.
What?
You're a chocolate bar, and every time you have sex with somebody, you give a piece of your chocolate bar away.
Oh.
And,
yeah. Yeah.
And once you marry your husband, you'll be a lesser chocolate bar for your man.
Yes. There's also one that you're a piece of tape, and each time you have sex before marriage,
some of the roll,
you just become less sticky.
Oh.
But then when you're married, you don't become less sticky because it's in the context of marriage.
Yeah.
Yes. There's also one that my friend loves to refer to. It's that you are a piece of gum, and each time that you have sex before marriage, you become this gross, chewed up old piece of gum.
Mm.
Who would want that? Ew. Yeah. So those are many metaphors that are used within purity culture. I'm not sure why. Does it say in the Bible that you're a chocolate bar? No. Does it say that you're a piece of gum? No.
This strikes on something that I like that you do, which is like, does it say in the Bible? Mm-hmm. If not, why are we doing these things?
Yes.
Like as a general thing. Yes. I like that you do this.
Well, thank you. I think it just needs to be said because I just believe that a lot of things and values in Christianity have been just skewed so much because they're taken out of context or interpreted in a certain way from the Bible, but it's not biblical. And if we're basing off our beliefs of the Bible, then why are we believing these things that man has made up if it's not in the Bible? Yeah. So I just feel like that is not said enough. So, yeah. So what questions do you have? Also, can I chew on one of these?
Yeah. Do you have anything more to say, like about purity culture, or anything else you want to add to that, though? Like in general, it doesn't have to be.
Which like side do you chew on? The pointy?
I do. Well, I start pointy and then switch.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
They're powerful. Well, especially
Wait,
like a fresh
does this have like nicotine in it or something?
I don't think so.
Oh, I hope not. It's just a toothpick. Look on the back.
Menthol?
Oh, no, that's not nicotine.
Oh, I don't know. It's birchwood.
Nice. Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add to it?
I would like to add that the idea that we become less pure and pure the more we have sex outside of marriage. I would love for people to look up where it says pure in the Bible.
Okay. What would happen if they looked it up?
Well, I have some Bible verses. I already looked it up.
Awesome. Love it.
Let's see. Let me find some. Let's just say that a lot of the times, I would say majority, pure and purity are not related to having sex. Let's see.
So not even chocolate bars aren't mentioned in the Bible, but connecting purity to your sexual nature is not really connected
either. Very good. Yes. But see, here's the thing. Is that I do believe, the Lord says that sex is meant for marriage. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that.
We've just had an overcorrection.
Yes.
Right.
I don't believe that you become like this less pure being,
a lesser
because
human
of it. Right. Okay.
Do you
let's see. Wow,
this may be too personal of a question.
Okay. That's okay.
Can I shoot for it though?
Sure.
And you can
I know.
not
I don't
answer
have
it.
to answer.
Have you had sex before?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay.
I'd be lying if I said no.
More than once?
Yes.
Okay.
With multiple people.
Okay. I was just curious if you're coming from a place of, like, maybe, and not to,
like I'm a virgin.
like maybe your history was like you were in deep in this purity culture, and then you've kind of now like had a realization that this is not it, but you've still stuck to it in a bit, or I was just kind of to get more context, I guess, for anybody listening, and
yes,
that's curious.
No, I'm not a virgin. Yes, all of these things have been truly just my own deep like dive into the Bible of being like, okay, I've grown up this way thinking these things, but are they biblical? Like, does this fully
represent?
Does
it actually say it?
Yes. And is this like truly is this how the Lord actually like has made it to be? And so if you would love to hear this one verse, it says, how can a young man keep his way pure? And by the way, the Bible says the pronouns him, he, his, many instances, but it can obviously be applied to everyone. It just, I don't know why it's that way. Because men are...
He is basically them, you're saying.
Yes.
In this. Yeah.
It says, how can a young man keep his way pure? By keeping your word. And does that entail, saving sex for marriage? Yes, but is that the only thing? No.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
So that's the problem with purity culture, is that they sum up purity as in just this one sin that is just sex before marriage. But there's many other things. It's pure, like purity in heart. It's not just like your sex life, So yes, there's very little, I would say. And the ones that, yes, mention sexual immortality within purity is not represented the same as it is today.
Sexual immortality?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Let me try and look up another example.
Sexual immortality.
I believe that's the correct word, unless I'm totally off.
But what does that mean? Like sexually?
It means like
you don't have sex forever?
No. Immortality meaning like you don't have sex before marriage.
Oh.
Or like sexual immortality is that you do have sex before marriage.
Oh. Okay, so you've been sexually immortal? Is that do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's not the correct. Okay, hold on. Oh, here it is. What does the Bible say? Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. Let's see. This is in 1 Corinthians. The body, however, is not meant for sexual... Oh, it's immorality. Sorry, not immortality.
Oh.
Immorality. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Doesn't say purity. Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Not about purity. Let me try and find one that does say something about purity. Blah, blah, blah. Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. That's where pure is spoken.
And all the sexually
immoral.
Oh.
And all the sexually. Yeah. This one has purity in it. It says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Do not be hasty in the laying on of hands. Do not share in the sins of others. Keep yourself pure. That one is not talking about sex. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God.
Okay.
You get it.
So you find every time purity is mentioned in the Bible, and it does not connect to sex.
There's very little, I would say.
Is there any cases you can drum up?
Well, with the sexually immoral.
Okay.
I would say that
Well,
there's very few instances where pure and purity are related to this idea of sexual immorality, and that we've focused way too much on purity being just sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many other ways that we are called to be so-called pure. And when it is relating to sexual immorality, it's not saying like that's the more sex you have before marriage makes you impure. It doesn't say that, you know.
Yeah. I like to try to paint it in spectrums, right?
Yes, you do.
So we see this overcorrection on one side of like, if you even think about sex, you're going to be less desirable to your husband. Like a very overcorrected sense of you're giving your chocolate bar away, your dirty water, right? We see that has happened now.
Yes.
And then I guess that would be 100% total abstinence. And if you are not abstinent, then you should feel shame for that. And I guess the opposite of that would be just total, I'm going to go out and have sexual relations with whoever I want at many times as I want, with it, no regard for the amount or anything like that. And I'm not going to feel any shame for that, right?
Okay.
Does that sound like the other side? So then wouldn't the center be, and the more proper balance is maybe a little bit of shame, but not a lot of shame at times, and then maybe not always zero partners, but sometimes, but not thousands of partners or hundreds?
I don't know if this is a spectrum kind of thing that you can apply to.
Okay. What don't you know about?
I just don't think that like your spectrum idea can be applied to this situation.
To everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that's how you want to think about it, but I don't believe in this certain situation that we're talking about. It can be applied.
Okay. But when we say like overcorrection, we see it tilting too far one way, which means it can tilt too far the other way is what I'm trying to picture. And therefore we want to find a way where it tilts in the straightforward direction.
Okay. I'll try my best.
Okay. That's what I'm getting at, I guess.
Okay. I'll try my best. I think the question you asked me didn't make much sense, is what really happened.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so let's take overcorrected first, because that's the big problem. Okay. But see, it that's why purity culture has both, I would say. It takes into account of being completely dirty and being completely clean, or whatever, you know, you get it. Is like, yes, the overcorrectedness is that, you know, all of the metaphors that we said. If you do this before marriage, you're so dirty, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then
that's a little too much.
Yes. But I would say the perfectly clean side, I mean, I had a friend, she told me that, like, one of her camp counselors told her that even the guys she, like, had a crush on was not good.
Was sinful.
Like, that was giving herself away. Just having crush.
Just having...
Like, just a normal attraction, which is natural. Jinx. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you owe me a soda.
Okay.
It's on air. I like root beer. Whether that be today or someday, but just it is there.
Okay.
But
I'll bring it fishing.
Okay. Wait, what?
I'll bring it fishing.
Oh, perfect. Great. That's a perfect fishing drink, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I think there's, like, you know, I think purity culture, I think that's why I said the spectrum doesn't work in this situation, because purity culture does both. Like, it literally harms both people who are trying to stay abstinent and people who are, like, I don't know, not as abstinent is what I'm saying. So that's why. And then that statement that her camp counselor told her, she like forced herself to not be attracted to guys. Or not just guys, but, like, you know, she's attracted to guys. Yeah. So she forced herself for years to not be attracted to guys, because she was told that was wrong, and that she's giving herself away, which is, but see, that's the thing, is that she was still in the wrong, but she was not indulging in anything sexual. She was still giving herself away for having a natural attraction, you know. But then on the other side, if you are indulging in sexual stuff before marriage, you are still giving yourself away. So it's kind of like, you know.
I'm trying to comprehend this now, if I'm being honest.
It's a very confusing thing. That's why I don't think we can.
It messes with a lot of people, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's why I'm like, maybe you can later on, but I can't put it into a spectrum realm right now, because it just hurts people on all aspects.
Well, to me, it's like, how should you conduct yourself regards to sex until you're married? And there's one side of the spectrum that says you should conduct yourself that you never even, like, this is the extremism, but you should never even think of another of the opposite sex until you're married to your husband, because that's even impure. Yes. But even what that trickles down to is the candy bar effect and everything like that.
Right.
And to me, the opposite of that is definitely not a Christian view, but in general, just a view some people have our age these days is
just hooking up with whoever.
Hooking up with whoever I can or want, and there's no consequences to that, and that I can go out and be sexually physical with anybody I want, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
And then maybe once I get into marriage, I'll settle down. But leading up to marriage, there's no problem with me sleeping around. Yes. To me, that's the other side.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
And so maybe the proper state is in the center.
Okay.
Of, I'm not necessarily a candy bar, but I'm also not going to give my candy bar out to everybody. Does that make sense?
Yes. I would say, from my perspective, and this is coming from someone who's not a virgin and who has not done this perfectly, obviously. I would say that, like, okay, let's just say for my hope for my kids. My hope for my kids would be that they see sex for what it actually is. That it's not a dirty thing. That's not a bad thing.
But it's also not something to be abused. We both agree on, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing in the Christian household perspective that was created by God for marriage because of the kind of commitment that marriage brings. And I would hope that I could teach them, like, just the importance and the beauty of it, so much so that they would want to wait until marriage to share that, like, to just be that intimate with only one person, you know? Because, like, yes, looking back, I wish I would have done that. Like, meeting Camden, I wish I never did that with anyone else. Because, like, he's my person, and I want to only do that with him. But, like, in the moment, you know, sometimes I didn't care. Sometimes I truly believed, like, this was going to be my person. I wasn't married to them, but I still was like, you know. Okay, but let's just take this out of the whole Christianity perspective, because I fully am, I definitely talk to people about this even without the Christian perspective. The whole art of hooking up whenever to whoever, in my opinion, is dangerous, whether you're a Christian or not. And I mean, if you look at any TV show, like Friends or How I Met Your Mother or whatever it may be. So many popular TV shows. 2 characters get involved sexually. And then what happens next? They start dating. Or heartbreak.
I was going to say after the dating.
They either have really heartbreak, someone has heartbreak, or they start dating. And why is that? Because sex isn't, it's not just a thing to do. It like is a whole physical, emotional thing that is very intimate. And like I don't know the specifics, but I do know that there are studies that show that like when 2 people have sex, there is something that goes off in your brain that like somewhat like connects you like in a certain way. And that is why, like, you know, if you hook up with someone for a while as mutual, I don't know what's it called, benefits, friends with benefits, that's not possible because eventually someone is going to catch feelings. Because that's just what it does. That's what it's supposed to do. That like sex is supposed to create this intimacy between people. And that's why like I truly believe that the Lord intended for it to be between 2 people who have committed their lives to each other for the rest of their lives, not to just be, you know, abused in a sense. I truly believe that that's kind of at least how I did it. Was that I just like abused this beautiful thing that is not supposed to be that way. And then over time you just kind of see sex for how most of the world sees it. It's just a thing to do. It doesn't mean anything, which fair. Like, yeah, the person doesn't have to mean anything to you, but like the actual act of doing it is like a very intimate thing, and it shouldn't just be played off like it's nothing. And granted, I don't think that like it's a soul tie, which is a huge thing in purity culture. Or like that you give yourself away, or, you know, like you're just always connected to that person. I don't believe that, because I mean, the first guy that, you know, I had sex with, I could care less. Sorry. He doesn't even, I don't even talk to him. But like, I never gave a second thought after that happened. And you know, and that's not to say like the connection wasn't there. It's just I don't think it lasts for eternity, you know. Yeah, I just think the whole like concept of soul ties is like really like far, I think.
Like a big reach?
I think it is. Just because like then like when you do get married, you think back to the people that you had sex with and you're like, oh, part of my soul is with them. Like, that's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't feel good about that.
Yeah.
Because, like, see, these are all things that aren't in the Bible. Does it say that if you're sexually immoral, your soul is tied to them? No. So this is why I'm saying, like, some of these things are a little bit taken too far.
Yeah.
Whether these concepts were created because like people were like trying to avoid teenagers having sex, I don't know. But either way, these concepts are preached pretty heavily nowadays. And I just don't think it's like correct. I don't think that's the way you teach.
Yeah.
That's like scaring people or something. Yeah. And that's not how like we should be teaching about sex, you know. So I don't know. There's just like a lot of problems, I think, with purity culture, and they're not biblical, in my opinion. But
that's a good argument, and I agree that we shouldn't be teaching out of fear.
No, not at all. Well, because see that there's so many things. If you start, I mean, so many Christian couples when they get married, they don't even know how to have sex. Like, not like you need to like watch a guide or read a book about it, but like they like legitimately don't know because they're scared because they've grown up this way.
To be fearful of it.
Yes. And that see, that doesn't make sense, because if you're supposed to be like from 0 to all of a sudden 100, how does that happen? That doesn't just happen like on your wedding night and you're just like full blown, like, it doesn't make much sense because we're so taught to like, don't do it before marriage. And like, you're scared because your soul's going to be with this person or my chocolate bar is going to be with them or I'm going to get less sticky. Like, I don't think that's the proper way we should be teaching kids. And then, when you do get married, you're like, am I supposed to, like, it doesn't even feel right to have sex at that point, even though you're married.
Would you say then it's good to have a little bit of experience before you get into marriage then?
Like experience as to what are you exactly talking about? Experience
in the bedroom.
Yeah, but like there's, like, can you be more specific? Like specifically having sex or? Yeah. No, I mean, because that's not what the Lord calls us to do. I mean, I don't. I think it's just the perspective is really what I'm getting at. Yeah. Is so that what we're taught?
We just, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not be fearful of it, but we don't also just need to take it on like it's a hobby.
Yeah. No.
Just let's, but I guess like is the best course to be neutral towards it? Or maybe the best course is to have more reverence for it.
Reverence, I would say.
Yeah.
That's why I think what is missing in purity culture is that we focus so much on like the wrong thing. I don't know what fear, sure. But we don't like teach it as in like sex is a beautiful thing that like is intended for two people who are committed to each other. And that's why you wait till marriage so that like you can share those intimate moments with the person who's not going to leave you, who's fully committed to you, because that's like that's the most beautiful thing ever. Like why, we have sex nowadays and you can leave anytime you want. And granted, yes, in marriage you can leave, but like, the intention of marriage is to live a whole lifetime with your partner. So, and for sex to just be like abused like every weekend, any day with whoever, and then you just get up and leave, like just hookup culture is just so toxic in my opinion, even for non-Christians. It's just not like healthy in my opinion. Like I could not imagine like, and I would guarantee that majority of girls, especially who are in hookup culture, if you really sat down with them and asked them how they were doing, and like if they truly enjoyed being left every weekend, they would say no, because like the whole point of having sex is to be intimate with a person, and they want that intimacy, but like it's just for a fleeting moment. That's the problem. But they want it longer. They just can't. Like they don't know how to get that, so they get it every weekend from a different person. But ultimately, it's not satisfying. Fulfilling. Yeah, exactly. Because that's not how it's meant to be. It's just not. So. Yeah.
So maybe let's not go sleep around, but at the same time, let's not create this whole fear cycle. Around sex at the same time.
I would say so.
And that would get us more in balance.
Yes.
With how we should approach it.
Having a proper perspective about it. And like because of that perspective, then we don't go sleep around, because we just like we treasure it for what it actually is.
Some more respect for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any, so, and now I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not gonna live in regret. I can't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can try and work towards like having the most respect for it and how the Lord intended it to be.
Yeah.
For the future. And just like, I don't know. That's like all I can do. And and then like for people who have already had sex who are Christians, I think it's like a hard thing because it's like when you get into another relationship and you're like, okay, well, like my door's kind of already open. Like I've already had sex with people. So do I, like what, sometimes there's just not even a door. Is there even a door anymore? I don't know. So do I try and get a whole new door and put it on its hinges and try and close it? Or, like, what do you do, you know? And so I think, yeah, it's very hard.
What do you mean? What do you mean by the door exactly?
Like the door of, like, sex. You know?
So like, I've already done it once. What's the harm in doing it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, it's just kind of like, well, I don't, like, what's the point of, like, not doing it anymore, you know? So that, I think that's a hard thing. And then in purity culture, there's also, like, this whole belief that if you and your boyfriend or, you know, your partner are, like, having sex, you guys just need to break up. Because, like, it's just a dirty relationship.
Which is funny because they say that your soul's now tied to them.
Yes.
So wouldn't you think that the next step would you should stay with that person then?
Yes.
So it's a little bit.
The logic is a little off.
A little off. Yeah.
But and I believed that for quite some time.
Did you? Yeah.
That, like, oh, because I had sex with my boyfriend, now we should just break up, just because we had sex. And granted,
that's very disorienting, I bet.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't figure that until, like, probably this past year. I would say. But I would say that, like, I obviously, like, I don't think you should keep doing that, but it's hard. See, that's the thing is, like, it's not just, it's not easy. You don't just say it and stop doing it. Like, once you've crossed these lines and these boundaries, it's very hard to backstep, you know? Because you've already created, like, you've already been so intimate, and then all of a sudden you kind of have to, like, backtrack and stop. And, you know, who knows? What if you and your boyfriend are still, like, actively trying to pursue the Lord, and, like, yes, you keep messing up. That doesn't mean you just have to break up. Like, why don't you try to not have sex? And, like, you know, wait till you both are committed. Like, why does it just have to be this one answer? You know? I don't understand why that has to be, like, the one solution to, like, if you are. And it's a different situation if you both of you are wanting to continue having sex. That's a different conversation. But if, like, you both actively know that you don't want to keep doing it, you know it's, like, not what the Lord intended, like, you already have that mindset. So all you need is just helpful tools to try and, like, stop. So why would you just break up? Like, how is that going to help you next time? It's not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Next time you have a boyfriend and you guys are having sex, well, then you guys just are going to break up again. You don't learn, like, useful tools to help you to not do it again.
To navigate this and deal with it.
So it's just, like, then a cycle of you just keep doing it and breaking up. Because that's all you're told. Is that if you just have sex with your boyfriend, you just break up. That's it. So it's like, that's not helpful. Yeah. If I could just stop, I would. You know? So, yeah. Do you have any more questions?
I think I could push back on this a bit.
Okay. Go for it.
Poke at you a bit.
Okay.
What about the studies that have found that the more sexual partners a person has, the lower chances they'll rate their happiness in marriage?
The more sexual partners they have,
previous to said marriage,
the lower they are happy in their marriage?
Yeah, the lower the likelihood.
So how does that contradict what I was saying?
Well, that would anything give more... Well, it doesn't contradict, but
like
it does, like, give some credit to trying to be pure in the sense that it's somebody could use it as evidence of the chocolate bar in a sense. Because if you say... Because you can look, and that's why, like, I brought up these studies, is what that made me think of, was as you get one partner, and I annotated them and printed them out. But as you get,
of course,
you get one partner, there's a drop on the what is that? Percentage of reporting very happy in marriage, and so as you get a partner, there's a decrease.
Okay.
In the scaling.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
So does
that prove the chocolate bar theory?
Somebody could use it to... I think we both came to a good conclusion in general, so I don't want this to overshadow that, where in no sense should we be using fear to teach people anything, but in this sense we're using fear to teach people about not we, but there are people in purity culture that are using fear to teach people about how sex should be and sex should operate, right? You're nodding. You're taking a drink of water. Nobody can hear you. Somebody could though use like research like, and this isn't, final research, but this is like a study of by the time, and they don't have a point for 0, which would be, I guess, interesting to have if you had 0 partners. But as you can see, when you get one partner and just looking at it for what it is for men, you're about what is that, about 73% of the chance, 73% of the time going to rate your marriage as being very happy. And then even just going from 1 to 2 partners, there's a drop from about 73 to about 64%.
Okay.
Which is what, 11 percentage point, about at least a 10 percentage point difference, which is a substantial difference.
Okay.
And as you go down, there's a slight like zig and zag, but going from 1 to something above 21, it starts to even out after that, is what they research. But this is something I wouldn't use to like try to, this in a way it kind of steel man's the purity argument in a sense, because it kind of does have a chocolate bar argument to it where you're kind of giving something away, it seems like, which in a way it kind of makes sense, where I think there is a little bit of truth in the purity thing, where if all you knew was one person when you get into marriage and you didn't have this structure of fear around it, then when you got into having physical relations with them, then it would be all you knew, and that therefore would mean that it's all you knew, and so almost in a sense ignorance is bliss, is I think an argument you could make from this. And so once you get to this point where you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, getting up to more, there's less of a satisfaction, because you've maybe sampled all these different things, and then get into your marriage and you have experience to draw off of, and our imagination can conflate things, I think is a theory you could apply to this. I'm not saying this is right, but this is something you could argue, where then because you've had all these experiences, you could even maybe go as far as to argue you can make an amalgam of all those experiences into this like perfect partner that didn't exist, that you were subconsciously with, that your now married partner doesn't meet those standards, if that makes sense. So yeah, in a sense it has some connection to that chocolate bar stuff.
I wouldn't say it has connection to the chocolate bar though.
Okay.
Because that's such a unique thing to say, that you're like giving a part of you like to someone, like forever. Yeah.
Well, that part could be like a part of your experience. I wouldn't argue like soul or anything like that, but your experience, you're definitely giving a part of.
I wouldn't say you're giving part of your experience. I mean, you have experiences every single day. It doesn't mean you're giving like your experience to these certain people, or like you're just having experiences with people.
But like isn't it more potent with something like sex though? So it's not just like our conversation we're having right now and this experience or whatever. There's something that we kind of covered even at the chemical level that's more potent for people when they have sex.
Well, right. But I wouldn't say it's like giving a part of you away. I just feel like that's like.
Yeah. But I guess, what do you think about
I think this
graph,
very much proves that like people are very unhappy when they're casually having sex and hooking up. I mean, I think that proves it.
Yeah.
If you need proof to be like, okay, well, you're probably unhappy because you're hooking up with a bunch of people, and like it doesn't have to just be a Christianity standpoint that like just having one partner for life is going to make you like much happier. I just feel like this proves the very point. I wouldn't go so far to say the chocolate bar theory, but I think it just proves.
I think it kind of connects to it a bit. I mean, because you see a correlation with partner to satisfaction.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to think about it in that aspect.
Yeah. Another like side tangent that's interesting is that there is like a good percentage points lower it is for women compared to men, which is interesting in itself. Doesn't really connect to what I was saying in a certain sense. But maybe in a sense, I bet you would agree that maybe purity cultures push more on women, right? Than men?
I think it has unhealthily pushed more on women because men are supposed to be sexual beings.
Yeah.
And men are like, it's supposed to be natural for them, you know? And like, this is a whole nother conversation, but like women are supposed to meet the needs of the man, you know? Because he's sexual. And like, she's supposed to do all these things for him. But I myself am an example of being a woman who's way more sexual, if anything, than my partners. Not like that should prove every single woman.
Like wanting it more?
Oh, yes, for sure. And I know a few other women who also feel the exact same, that they are way more sexual than the man. So I think it's kind of an unfair statement to just put that on the entire gender of women and men. And also just like, this also has to do with purity culture, but in a different sense. I mean, a lot is put on women because, you know, when you're out in public and, you know, women should dress this certain way. They shouldn't show their cleavage. They shouldn't show their butts. They shouldn't show anything promiscuous because, you know, the men are going to look at the women. They're going to lust. Which I do feel as though Christian women should. I mean, I don't know why you would intentionally dress that way, you know, to make a man look at you necessarily, but that's not the problem. The problem is that, like, why is it the woman's problem? Why do they have to dress a certain way just because you can't control where you look? Just because you can't control what you're thinking? Like, why are you looking at her then? What? Just because she's dressing a certain way doesn't mean you have to sexualize her.
So pretty.
What?
All of it.
Oh.
The butt, the thighs.
Okay. Well, yes. I mean,
like,
a woman's body is beautiful.
I don't want to take away from what you're saying. I don't want to take away, and I agree to it a certain extent.
I'm just,
that
the point.
There is this over-blaming of women, but at the same time, like, as men as well, we kind of have this tendency to just, I like, in general, we're more visual creatures.
See, that's the thing.
Okay.
Is that it's always said. Why? But women are visual too.
But we have a higher tendency for it, is all.
Because you're told that. You're told from a very young age that you're more visual. And it's also, like, represented in culture because women, like, are supposed to dress a certain way so that you don't see them in a certain way.
Well, then why do women wear makeup and men don't?
Well, that's not, I don't think that's, like, sexual.
It's not?
I never thought wearing makeup was sexual. I think that's just what women do to feel pretty.
Why do they feel pretty?
I don't know, because it changes what their face looks like.
Why do they go out of their way to dress themselves up a particular way?
I don't know, because
and nothing
they
against
feel
it,
good?
no shame against it, but I would say it's to
You say the
attract
same?
somebody.
Okay.
That's why. And I think that men, and you see this play out just in general of like how.
Also, when does the library close? I feel like everyone's left.
There's a guy on a computer over there.
Okay, cool.
Like when you see two people going on a date,
Okay.
Very, like, traditionally, which is kind of lost right now.
Okay.
The women both dress up, but the woman... The woman dresses up for more physical attraction, and the man dresses up more to state status. Because women are generally more attracted to status than men are, and men are more attracted to physical characteristics than women are. That's why...
Okay, sure.
Okay. That's where it comes from. And I agree that to a certain extent we overly blame women for dressing how they want to dress, but I think it's just like I know I keep coming back to it, but a spectrum where
oh my goodness.
where there's a balance to be had. I think it's an overcorrection to just blame women, but I think it's also an overcorrection to blame men and shame them for looking as well.
For sure. I think there's equal parts.
Yeah. That's all I'm getting
I mean, I think that, yes, women who dress a certain way are probably seeking attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, like, why... Yes, that the blame and the whole, like, why do they do that is all on the woman. I don't believe that it should be all on the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why... Like, even just that, like, it's a whole... I don't know. Just like a whole thing when children grow up.
Well,
in my opinion.
What's really, I think, cool about it when both sexes are on their toes is that men almost in a way have this resource in itself of their attention, and women have the resource of their attraction.
Sure. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's unfair. I think it's just unfair for us to blame women on how they dress when we, like, should also put the blame on men for, like, just seeing a woman's body and just over-sexualizing it and making up all these fantasies. Like, and that's, like, with anything. I mean, I remember, and I told people this recently, that for some reason, I have been thinking about this one time that my family and I were in Switzerland. We were on this train.
Okay.
I don't remember how we were oriented, but I was just wearing leggings. I was in high school. I was sitting like a man, because apparently a man sits a certain way that a lady should not, which is also unfair. But I was just sitting with my legs spread, and my parents were like, I don't know. People aren't going to understand because I'm not going to be showing. But I think that I was sitting right here. My parents were right there. Okay? And I think, if I remember correctly, there was like a guy right here or right in front of me. And I think my mom saw him looking at me. Because I was spreading my legs.
And your mom blamed you.
Yes. She said, please close your legs because someone's looking at you.
And
it's like, why is that my fault?
Mm-hmm.
And if I was my mom...
What would you do, if you were your mom?
would... Well, I'm a very controversial person.
Confrontational?
Or controversial and confrontational. So, if I truly saw a man, which I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if she was just generally saying that.
Yeah. Let's say, though, hypothetically.
Okay, if a man was looking at me.
Yeah.
I'm a teenager, and this is a man.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I saw a man looking at my daughter, who's doing absolutely nothing, in my opinion, to attract a man, she's just sitting there. And she's apparently sitting like a man, which apparently... is sexual or something. She's not like crossing her legs, so apparently that's sexual. I would definitely call out the man and be like, hey, can you not look at my teenage daughter like that? Like, why would you call me out for just sitting and just so happen to be wearing leggings? That's kind of the point. Is that just like, I feel like overall culture is just so much pointing at like the woman, please fix this. But it's like, it's also the man's problem, you know? Like, why is it just on me? I was a teenager just sitting there. So it's like, Mom, advocate for me a little bit. Like, I just, you know, but that's the point. And I mean, especially at my Catholic school, you know, we wore uniforms, we wore skirts, and I never experienced this, but literally everyone else apparently in my school, they experienced that the teachers would make them get down on their knees and take a ruler out so that they could measure their skirts. So that they were not too short. Because otherwise, that would attract men. And then on the days we didn't have to wear uniforms, we could wear jeans. But no holes, because that could attract men. And it's like, okay, see, we're over-sexualizing things.
Overcorrecting.
It's just holes in our jeans.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to wear spaghetti straps because they could see your shoulders. So why are shoulders sexualized? They're my shoulders, you know? And then, like, this one religion teacher told us, she told us that the reason why it's inappropriate to wear crop tops is because men can see your belly button. And it reminds them of being in their mother's womb. And that is sexual, apparently. And I was like, I'm sorry, where does it say that in the Bible?
Her husband must be into some
weird
stuff.
Because I was like, that is absurd, in my opinion. I'm sorry, lady. But see, that's the thing, is that, like, I just feel like all of these things on a woman's body are sexualized even by women who are teaching other women. And then because of that, men are taught to, like, look at women.
See, I don't think we're taught that. I think we like just biologically.
Okay, so if I slid my shoulder out of my shirt, you would get turned on and you would think that's attractive?
Maybe.
Okay, that's your own personal problem, I think.
No, I'm serious.
You would
like,
think that my shoulder is attractive.
It's not just a shoulder, it's skin.
Okay, so why can't women do that too?
What?
If you slipped your shirt up and I saw your shoulder, why can't I be attracted to that too?
You can. But
but then
women generally don't have less of a tendency to go for physical features.
But
they care for status more. That's what I said earlier. And I think generally speaking that aligns. And I think more men out of 10 will choose the more physically attractive woman than the successful woman, and more women out of 10, because this is how it balances out, and this is why I'm saying it like this. And then more women out of 10 will choose a more successful man over the hot guy. So it's just a difference of how we're...
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I do. So then why... But, like, if it's... Okay, say you're not taught. Maybe that is biological.
And just to begin, like, I agree that we shouldn't overly... It's this balance thing. We shouldn't overly blame women without blaming men at the same time. But I'm just saying in general that we do... Our eyes do wander easily. And it should be on us to have the discipline to handle that.
Yes, and to control yourself.
To control ourselves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing, is that there's nothing
There's
being
no conversation around that.
About that.
Yeah.
See, men can look at girls and blah, 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 blah. They can do whatever they want in their minds. But women have to dress a certain way just so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, what? It shouldn't happen in general.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't be doing that. And that's just, like, a main concept. Like, you know, if you're on the bus or the train or the subway or whatever the heck you do, and, you know, there's a woman who dresses very promiscuously, and then, you know, she gets taken advantage of. And then the guy's just like, well, it's her fault because she was showing that much skin. And, like, it's not my fault I'm attracted to that.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's her fault. She shouldn't have been wearing that.
No, if a man commits that, it's definitely on him for committing the sexual assault.
Yes.
Yeah, because he broke the law, and that you should have more discipline than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, like, although...
And I agree that's not in the conversation, and I think it should.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that's a issue we have right now.
Yes.
In what's being,
and
I don't know, taught or whatever, but yeah. No, I agree with that for sure.
Yes, because some people genuinely do believe that it would have been her fault.
Mm-hmm.
They're closing.
Yeah. They close at 8. I looked.
Oh.
Okay, we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
Put the headphones back on.
Oh.
It's a little bit, but I'll wrap it up. Okay. This was a good talk.
This was a good talk.
I'm glad you brought these issues up.
Thank you.
I'm
very happy to hear your perspective from the outside.
And to give me these ideas as the outsider. To wrap up, I have a question from the previous person that was on the podcast.
Oh, Oh, does that mean I have to think about a question too?
Yes. It can be
Okay.
lightheaded. Like, most of these were light to begin with. But
Okay.
he went a little bit. You could take it deeper. He asked you, what's the ideal human?
Jesus.
Yeah. Can you expand on that more? Just for the sake of it?
Well, I can't explain it all, but I would say for people who are wondering, just read the Bible, read one of the Gospels to get the true image of Jesus. But in words, I would say selfless, forgiving, loving, caring, kind, sacrificial, graceful, prayerful, wise, discerning, non-judgmental.
Would you say assertive?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I don't think that, but in the best sense.
Yeah.
He's assertive.
At proper times.
Yes. Because many people are like, well, Jesus is just loving and blah, 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 and he loves everyone, which is true. But that, I mean, just because you love your children doesn't mean you're not going to discipline them. I mean, so there can't be, I think discipline is part of love. Yeah. That's real love. Yeah. And if it's not in there, I don't think that's real. So yes, I do believe that Jesus was assertive at times. Very well deserved. Yes.
And then what's your question for the next person? It can be, like the one before that was, what's the best milkshake?
Oh, okay.
So it's no pressure at all. Whatever you want to ask. I like the deeper ones because they're funner, but whatever you want to go for.
Okay.
Big thoughts.
I'm really bad. I'm being put on the spot.
It can be anything you want.
What is a place that you would like to visit in the world if money was not a problem?
I like it.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Good.
Thank you, folks.
Okay. Goodbye.
We'll see ya. Goodbye.